She's wearing white, but this isn't a wedding, it's a transaction. Alara Vance stands at the end of an empty aisle, 23 years old and worth exactly what her adopted family needed to settle their debts. The man waiting at the altar doesn't smile. Roman Drax. They say he kills people the way other men sign contracts. Efficiently, without remorse. Her hand shakes so hard the bouquet trembles. No guests. No music. Just the sound of her heels on marble and the thundering certainty that her life, whatever small piece of it belonged to her, just ended. But when their eyes meet, something in his gaze shifts. Recognition. Calculation. Hunger. Want to see if she survives what comes next? Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Alara's story travels. The dress costs more than most people earn in a year. Alara knew this because Vivian Vance made sure she knew it, standing in the boutique with her arms crossed and that expression she wore, the one that said you should be grateful louder than words ever could. "Don't slouch," Vivian had said, circling her like a buyer inspecting livestock. "And for God's sake, smile. You're getting married, not executed." Alara hadn't smiled then. She didn't smile now. The mirror in her bedroom reflected someone she barely recognized. The dress fit perfectly because it had been tailored 3 times, each fitting more humiliating than the last, as seamstresses pinned and tucked around her while Vivian criticized her posture, her weight, her entire existence. The bodice pressed against her ribs like a cage. Seed pearls cascaded down the train in patterns that probably meant something to someone who cared about symbolism. Alara just felt heavy. She touched the neckline with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. 23 years. That's how long she'd lived in this house, sleeping in rooms that were beautifully decorated and completely impersonal, eating meals where conversation happened around her but never included her, existing as living proof that the Vance family was charitable and sophisticated and all the things people admired from a distance. Adopted at 3 years old. She didn't remember much from before, just fragments, sensations. Cold. Hunger. A woman's voice singing something she couldn't recall the words to. Then everything changed. Suddenly there were clean sheets and hot meals and a bedroom bigger than whatever place she'd come from. Vivian and Marcus Vance smiled for the cameras, posed for the charity circuit, collected their accolades for saving a poor orphan from a tragic fate. They never mentioned that they'd wanted a son. Alara learned that truth the way children learn all devastating things, through overheard conversations, through the careful distance her adoptive parents maintained, through the way they looked at her like she was a placeholder for something better that never arrived. They kept her anyway. Raised her with expensive tutors and strict rules. Taught her to be quiet, to be decorative, to take up as little space as possible while still reflecting well on the family name. She got good at it. Excellent, even. Invisible. A knock on the door made her flinch. It's time. Vivian's voice carried that particular edge that meant Alara was already doing something wrong just by existing. The door opened without waiting for a response. Vivian stood there in a champagne-colored dress that probably cost as much as the wedding itself. Her hair swept up in a style that required professional help and a complete lack of soul. "You look acceptable," Vivian said, which was the closest thing to a compliment Alara would get. Her eyes swept over the dress, the hair, the makeup that a professional had applied with the enthusiasm of someone frosting a cake they'd never taste. "Remember what I told you. You will be gracious. You will be grateful. You will not embarrass this family." Alara's throat felt tight. "This family is selling me to a criminal." The slap came fast, sharp, practiced. Vivian's ring caught her cheekbone, and Alara tasted blood where her teeth cut the inside of her mouth. The sting was familiar. Not frequent enough to leave permanent marks, but regular enough that Alara had learned which expressions caused them and which didn't. "You are saving this family," Vivian hissed, her face so close Alara could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive and suffocating. "Your marriage to Mr. Drax resolves certain financial complications that are none of your concern. You will walk down that aisle, you will say your vows, and you will be grateful that someone wants you at all." The words landed like stones. Alara stood very still, the way she'd learned to stand when Vivian got like this. Eye contact meant defiance. Looking away meant cowardice. She settled for staring at a point just past Vivian's shoulder, her face carefully blank. "Do you understand me?" "Yes." Her voice came out steady. Small victory. Vivian stepped back, smoothing her dress as if the violence had wrinkled it. Marcus is waiting downstairs. Don't keep him waiting. She left. The door clicked shut with a sound like a lock engaging. Alara's hands found the edge of the vanity and gripped it hard enough that her knuckles went white. The face in the mirror stared back at her, makeup covering the red mark on her cheek, eyes too wide, breathing too shallow. She looked like a bride. She felt like a sacrifice. The house was silent as she walked downstairs. Not the comfortable silence of a home at rest, but the deliberate quiet of a place holding its breath. Her heels clicked on marble floors polished to a shine that could double as mirrors. Paintings watched her pass. Ancestors who weren't hers. Family histories she'd never be part of. Wealth built on foundations she wasn't allowed to question. Marcus stood at the bottom of the stairs in a suit that cost more than some cars. He looked up at her with the same expression he'd worn at every school event, every birthday, every moment that required his presence. Polite disinterest wrapped in expensive fabric. Alara. He didn't say she looked beautiful. Didn't say anything about the wedding or the marriage or the fact that he was handing her over to a man whose name made lawyers nervous. He just offered his arm with the mechanical courtesy of someone fulfilling an obligation. She took it. What choice did she have? The car was waiting outside. Black, sleek. Windows tinted dark enough to hide whatever happened inside. Marcus helped her into the back seat with the careful distance of someone handling fragile cargo he didn't particularly value. He slid in beside her and the door shut with a sound like a tomb ceiling. They drove in silence. Alara watched the city slide past. Familiar streets. Places she'd been but never belonged to. The Vance family owned property throughout the city. Investments, assets, the kind of wealth that accumulated over generations and insulated people from consequences. She'd grown up in that world without ever being part of it. A ghost at the table, a name on paperwork. He's not what you think. Marcus spoke suddenly, his voice carefully neutral. Alara turned to look at him. You're giving me to a crime lord and you want me to think positive thoughts about it? I'm resolving a debt. Marcus stared straight ahead. And ensuring you're taken care of in the process. The lie was so smooth she almost admired it. Almost. You're saving yourself, Alara said quietly. I'm just the payment. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Points for honesty, she supposed. The car turned down a private road, away from the city center, towards something that looked like a chapel but felt more like a courthouse. Small, discreet. The kind of place where people got married when they didn't want witnesses. The car stopped. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs. This was real. This was happening. No dramatic rescue. No last-minute revelation that would change everything. Just her, an address, and a man she'd never met, who'd apparently purchased her like property. Marcus got out first, offered his hand. She took it because the alternative was sitting in the car forever, and she'd learned early that delaying the inevitable just made it worse. The chapel was small, empty. White roses lined the aisle in arrangements that probably looked romantic in the catalog, but felt sterile in person. No guests, no music. Just silence and flowers and a man standing at the altar who made the air feel different. Roman Drax. Alara had seen pictures, grainy surveillance photos in newspapers, professional headshots from business profiles that didn't quite match his reputation. None of them prepared her for the reality of him. He was tall. That was the first thing. Tall enough that she'd have to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, broad-shouldered in a black suit that looked custom-made and probably was. Dark hair cut short, sharp jawline, features that were handsome in the way that predators are beautiful, all clean lines and controlled power. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch. Gray, cold, focused on her with an intensity that felt physical. He didn't smile, didn't pretend this was anything other than what it was. He just watched her walk down the aisle on Marcus's arm with the patience of someone who always got what he wanted and knew how to wait for it. The walk felt eternal. Each step echoed. The dress weighed 1,000 pounds. Alara kept her chin up through sheer stubbornness, refusing to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her break. Not yet. Not here. Marcus stopped at the altar, placed her hand in Roman's without ceremony. The transfer of property, efficient and clean. Roman's hand was warm, larger than hers, calloused in ways that suggested he didn't just sign papers. He did things, built things, broke things with those hands. His grip was firm but not painful. He held her hand like it mattered, which was the most disturbing part. Marcus stepped back. The officiant, an older man with tired eyes who'd probably seen stranger things, opened his book. "We are gathered here today." "Skip it." Roman's voice was low, rough, the kind of voice that made people listen without raising volume. He didn't look at the officiant. His eyes stayed on Alara. "Get to the vows." The officiant cleared his throat, flipped pages. "Do you, Roman Drax, take this woman?" "I do." No hesitation, no poetry, just two words that felt like a verdict. The officiant turned to Alara. She could feel everyone watching, Marcus behind her, probably calculating how this marriage saved his assets. Vivian somewhere, probably relieved to finally be rid of her. Roman in front of her, his expression unreadable. "Do you, Alara Vance, take this man?" Her throat closed. The words stuck. This was it. The last moment. The final chance to say no, to run, to choose literally anything else. But there was nothing else. No money, no family that wanted her, no skills that would keep her alive in a world that didn't care about girls with no connections and expensive educations that meant nothing without names to back them up. She could say no, and then what? Live on the street? Beg Marcus to take her back? Become exactly the kind of desperate that made people like Roman Drax rich? At least this way she knew what she was getting. A transaction. Clean, simple. "I do." The words came out steadier than she felt. Roman's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Approval? Satisfaction? She couldn't tell. "You may kiss the bride." Roman moved slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Couldn't. Just stood there as he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. Brief, controlled. Nothing like the passionate kisses in movies. It felt like a signature, a seal on a contract. When he pulled back, his hand was on her waist, proprietary and certain. "You're mine now." He said it quietly, just for her. Not a threat, a statement of fact. The officiant pronounced them married. Marcus left without saying goodbye. The chapel felt colder. Roman led her outside to a car that made Marcus's vehicle look modest. Black, armored. The kind of car that said its owner had enemies and resources to deal with them. He opened the door himself, handed her in with a courtesy that felt more dangerous than violence. She slid across leather seats that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Roman got in beside her. The door closed. The driver, a man who looked like he bench-pressed cars for fun, pulled away without being told. Alara stared at her hands. Her ring finger now carried a band of platinum and diamonds that felt heavy as shackles. "You're quiet," Roman's voice cut through her thoughts. "What do you want me to say?" She didn't look at him. "Whatever you're thinking." "I'm thinking I just married a stranger because my family sold me to cover their debts, and I have no idea what happens next." Silence. Then, "Honest. Good." She turned to look at him. He was watching the city pass by, his profile sharp in the dim light. "Is that unusual for you?" she asked. "Honesty? In my world?" A slight smile, cold and humorless. "Very." The car climbed higher into the city, away from the neighborhoods she knew. The buildings got taller, sleeker, more expensive. They pulled into an underground garage that looked like something out of a spy movie. Concrete and steel and security cameras everywhere. The elevator was glass. It rose so fast her stomach dropped. Alara watched the city fall away beneath them, lights spreading out like stars, until they were so high everything looked small and distant and unreal. The doors opened directly into a penthouse. Alara stepped out and forgot how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the entire space, offering views of the city that belonged on postcards. The furniture was modern, expensive, and sparse. Nothing unnecessary, everything chosen with purpose. Hardwood floors so polished they reflected the lights. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than the Vance family home. A kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Space. So much space. "This is where you live?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "We live!" Roman moved past her, shrugging off his jacket. Underneath, he wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that confirmed her earlier suspicion. He didn't just sign papers. Your things will arrive tomorrow. My things? Clothes, personal items. Whatever you need that you didn't have. He poured himself a drink from a bar that looked like it could stock a restaurant. You want anything? She shook her head. Her thoughts were racing too fast for alcohol to help. Roman watched her over the rim of his glass. You're scared. You're a crime lord who just married me to settle a debt. What do you think? I think you're smart to be scared. He set the glass down, moved closer. Alara forced herself not to step back. But I'm not going to hurt you. That's what people say right before they hurt you. Something flickered in his expression, not anger, but something harder to name. Fair enough. He walked to a hallway and she followed because she didn't know what else to do. He opened a door to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire suite at the Vance house. Massive bed, more windows. Attached bathroom she could see through an open door. This is yours, he said. Alara stared. Mine? Your space, your room. No one comes in without permission. He met her eyes. Including me. The relief was so sharp it almost hurt. Why? Because you're my wife, not my prisoner. He leaned against the door frame, studying her. The Vances sold you like property. I bought you like an asset, but you're a person, and I'm not interested in breaking people who don't deserve it. Then what do you want from me? Roman smiled, and it wasn't comforting. Time, patience, eventually loyalty. He pushed off the doorframe. But we'll work up to that. He turned to leave. Alara's voice stopped him. Why me? If you needed a wife, there are probably hundreds of women who'd marry you without debt and coercion. He looked back at her, and for the first time she saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. Something that looked almost like understanding. Because you were for sale, he said simply, and I always pay attention to things people are trying to get rid of. Usually they're more valuable than anyone realizes. He left her standing in the doorway of a room that was hers, in a life that wasn't, married to a man she didn't know who looked at her like she was a puzzle worth solving. Alara closed the door, locked it, pressed her back against it, and finally let herself shake. The dress suddenly felt unbearable. She fought with the buttons and zippers and approximately 1,000 tiny clasps until it pooled at her feet in a mountain of silk and broken promises. She left it there. Walked to the bathroom and turned on the shower as hot as it would go. The water scalded. She stood under it until her skin turned red, until the makeup ran off in dark streams, until she couldn't tell what was water and what were tears. She scrubbed at the place where Vivian's ring had cut her cheek, at her hands, at every inch of skin that felt contaminated by the day. When she finally got out, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. Red eyes, red skin, hair plastered to her skull. She looked like she'd survived something. Maybe she had. She found a robe hanging on the back of the door, soft, expensive, sized for her, which meant Roman had planned this, had prepared for her, which was either thoughtful or terrifying, and she couldn't decide which. She wrapped herself in it and sat on the edge of the bed. The room was silent except for the distant sound of the city below. She was higher than she'd ever been, farther from everything she'd known. Married to a man who killed people and looked at her like she was worth something. She should sleep, should rest, should do literally anything except sit here spinning in circles. Instead, she got up and walked back to the main living space. Roman sat at a desk near the windows, laptop open, phone to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian that sounded both fluent and irritated. He saw her and held up one finger. Wait. She waited. He finished the call, set the phone down. Looked at her. Can't sleep? His voice had lost some of its edge, not soft, but less sharp. Can't stop thinking. Dangerous habit. He gestured to a chair across from him. She sat. He closed the laptop and gave her his full attention, which was somehow more intense than anything else that had happened today. Questions? So many I don't know where to start. Start with the one that scares you most. Alara took a breath. What do you actually want from me? Not the polite answer, the real one. Roman leaned back in his chair, considering. The Vances owed me money. A lot of it. Marcus made some very stupid investments in my territory, and when they went bad, he needed someone to take the fall. He couldn't pay in cash, so he offered alternatives. He paused. You were one of them. The words confirmed what she'd suspected, but hearing them still hurt. I could have taken his business, his properties, his reputation, Roman continued. But I took you instead because I saw the way he talked about you, like you were disposable. And people who treat assets as disposable usually don't understand their value. So I'm an investment? Your potential. He said it like it was obvious. Smart, educated, invisible in all the right circles, the kind of person people underestimate. And you want to use that? I want to see what happens when you stop being invisible. His eyes stayed on hers. The Vances kept you small, quiet, controlled. I'm curious what you'd become without those restraints. It should have sounded manipulative. Maybe it was, but there was something in the way he said it that felt different from the way the Vances had talked about her. Like he was interested in her potential, not just her usefulness. And if I disappoint you, then you disappoint me. He shrugged. But I don't think you will. Alara wasn't sure whether to be flattered or terrified. She settled for cautious. What happens now? Tomorrow? Next week? Tomorrow you rest. Get used to being here. Explore. Read. Sleep. Whatever you need. Roman stood, walked to the windows. The city sprawled beneath them like a kingdom. Next week, you meet people. My people. Start learning how my world works. And then? Then you decide who you want to be in it. He said it like she had a choice, like she was a partner, not a possession. Alara didn't trust it, couldn't trust it, but she wanted to. Desperately, dangerously wanted to believe that maybe this wouldn't be what she feared. I'm going to bed, she said, standing. Unless you need something. No. He glanced at her. Sleep well, Alara. She walked back to her room, and this time when she closed the door, she didn't lock it. The bed was massive and comfortable and felt wrong. She lay in the darkness listening to the city hum below, feeling the weight of the ring on her finger, thinking about how her life had ended and begun in the same day. Eventually, exhaustion won. She dreamed of falling, but instead of hitting the ground, she learned to fly. When she woke, sunlight poured through windows she'd forgotten to cover. The city looked different in daylight, cleaner, sharper, more real. She found clothes in the closet that fit perfectly, expensive labels she recognized from magazines. Someone had been here, planned this, prepared for her existence. She dressed in jeans and a sweater because she could, because no one was telling her to wear designer labels and smile for cameras. It felt like rebellion, even though it probably wasn't. The penthouse was quiet. She found coffee already made in the kitchen, still hot. A note beside it in sharp, precise handwriting. Had to handle business. Make yourself at home. R. Make yourself at home. In a penthouse overlooking a city. In a life that belonged to a crime lord. In a marriage that was a transaction. Alara poured coffee and walked to the windows. The city spread out beneath her, millions of people living lives that didn't involve forced marriages and dangerous men. She wondered what they'd think if they knew her story. Probably pity. Maybe judgment. She didn't want either. Her phone buzzed. She'd almost forgotten she had it. A text from a number she didn't recognize. Lunch at Meridian, 1 p.m. Don't be late. V. Vivian. Because, of course, couldn't even let her have one day. Alara stared at the message. She could ignore it. She was married now, technically free of the Vances. But curiosity won. What could Vivian possibly want now? She arrived at Meridian 15 minutes early because old habits die hard. The restaurant was the kind of place the Vances frequented, all white tablecloths and quiet conversations and prices that made normal people wince. She gave her name and was led to a private table where Vivian sat looking immaculate and slightly annoyed. You're early, Vivian said, like it was a criticism. You texted. Alara sat down. What do you want? Manners, for a start. Vivian sipped her wine. And gratitude. That man could have taken everything from us. Instead, he took you. The words were meant to hurt. They did. So this is a thank you lunch? Alara kept her voice level. This is a reminder. Vivian leaned forward. You are still a Vance. Your actions reflect on this family. Whatever. Arrangement. You have with Mr. Drax, you will conduct yourself appropriately. You will not embarrass us. Or what? Vivian's smile was ice. Or you'll discover that being married to a dangerous man doesn't make you untouchable. The threat hung between them. Alara should have been scared, should have nodded and apologized and slipped back into the role she'd played for 20 years. But something had shifted. Maybe it was sleeping in a room that was hers. Maybe it was the way Roman had looked at her like she was worth something. Maybe it was just 23 years of swallowing words finally reaching capacity. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," Alara said quietly. Vivian's expression flickered, surprise, then anger. "You ungrateful—" "I'm grateful for nothing," Alara stood. "You bought me from an orphanage like furniture, kept me around for tax breaks and social credit, then sold me to clear your debts. So no, Vivian, I don't owe you gratitude or respect or another second of my time." She turned to leave. Vivian's voice followed her. "He'll get bored of you. Men like that always do. And when he does, don't come crying to us." Alara looked back. "When that happens, I still won't come to you." She left Vivian sitting there, and it felt better than anything had in years. The walk back to the penthouse should have been triumphant. Instead, Alara felt hollow. She'd burned a bridge she'd never wanted to cross again anyway, but it still felt significant. Final. When she got back, Roman was there, standing at the windows with his phone in hand, looking like he owned the city below. "How was lunch?" he asked without turning around. "How did you know? I know everything that happens to you." He glanced at her. "It's my job now." Instead of creepy, it felt almost protective. Almost. "It was illuminating," Alara said. "Vivian wanted to remind me I'm still a Vance and shouldn't embarrass the family." "What did you say?" "That I'm not afraid of her anymore." Roman smiled, and it was genuine this time, sharp and approving. "Good. They don't deserve your fear." He moved to the bar, poured 2 glasses of something amber, handed her one. "To burning bridges," he said. She clinked her glass against his. "To learning to swim." They drank, and Alara felt something click into place. Not trust, not yet, but possibility. The faint chance that maybe, just maybe, she'd been bought by someone who wanted to see her become more, not less. The sun set over the city, painting everything gold and red. And in a penthouse high above the world, Alara Vance, no, Alara Drax, stood beside a man who knew how to break things and wondered if maybe, just maybe, he knew how to build them too. But beneath the golden light and expensive wine, something stirred. A phone buzzed in Roman's pocket. He glanced at it, and his expression went cold. "I need to handle something," he said, already moving toward the door. "What kind of something?" He paused, looked at her. For a moment she thought he might lie. The kind that involves people who think they can touch what's mine. His voice carried an edge that made her pulse quicken. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me." Roman, but he was already gone, leaving her alone in a penthouse that suddenly felt less like freedom and more like a very expensive cage, with questions multiplying in the silence and the sick certainty that the transaction she'd agreed to had complications she hadn't begun to understand. The penthouse felt different in the dark, bigger, emptier. Every shadow looked like it was hiding something. Alara stood at the windows watching the city lights blur together, her reflection a ghost against the glass. Roman had been gone for 3 hours. No calls, no texts, just silence and the weight of his last words. "Don't open the doors for anyone but me," hanging in the air like a threat or a promise. She couldn't tell which. She'd locked every door she could find, checked them twice, then paced the length of the penthouse until her feet hurt, and her thoughts spiraled into places she didn't want them to go. What kind of business required that tone in his voice, that coldness in his eyes, the kind that ended with someone bleeding, probably? Maybe dead. Her husband killed people. She knew this, had known it when she said "I do." But knowing something in the abstract and living with the reality were different animals entirely. The elevator dinged. Alara's heart slammed against her ribs. She moved away from the windows, pressing her back against the wall near the hallway where she could run if she needed to. The doors slid open. Roman stepped out, and he looked like war. Blood on his knuckles. Shirt untucked, jaw tight enough to crack teeth. He moved like everything hurt, but he refused to acknowledge it. All controlled violence and barely restrained fury. His eyes found her immediately, and something in them softened just enough to be noticeable. "You're still up." His voice sounded rough, scraped raw. "You told me to lock the doors." Didn't mention I should sleep through whatever the hell just happened to you. He looked down at his hands like he'd forgotten about the blood. It's not mine. That's not reassuring. A ghost of a smile. Wasn't trying to reassure you. He walked past her toward the bathroom. She heard water running, the sound of him washing his hands with the methodical precision of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. When he came back out, his knuckles were clean but already bruising, purple spreading under the skin like storm clouds. What happened? Alara asked. Someone thought they could move product through my territory without permission. Roman poured himself a drink, downed it, poured another. They were wrong. Did you kill them? He looked at her over the rim of the glass. Does it matter? I don't know. Does it? Not to me. He set the glass down. I don't kill people for fun, Alara. I kill them because they make choices that leave me no other options. Tonight was one of those nights. The casual way he said it should have terrified her. Maybe it did. But underneath the fear was something else. Curiosity. A sick desire to understand this man she'd married, to map the boundaries of what he was capable of. You're not running, he observed. Where would I go? Anywhere. You've got money now. Accounts in your name. You could disappear if you wanted. She hadn't known that. The information landed like a stone in still water. You'd let me? I don't keep people prisoner. Roman moved closer, studying her face. But you're not running. Why? Because the Vances would find her. Because she had no skills that would keep her alive in a world that ate people like her for breakfast. Because despite everything, despite the blood and the violence and the absolute certainty that this man was dangerous, she felt safer here than she'd felt in 20 years of living in a mansion with people who called themselves her family. Because maybe I'm curious too, she said instead. His expression shifted. Interest, approval, something darker. Careful. Curiosity is dangerous. So is marriage, apparently. He laughed. Short, sharp, genuine. You've got a mouth on you. I like it. The Vances spent years trying to train it out of me. They failed. He reached out, tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. The gesture was casual, but his fingers lingered just long enough to make it something else. Good. Alara's breath caught. This close, she could see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, the scar that cut through his left eyebrow, the way he looked at her like she was a puzzle he was actively solving. You should sleep, he said, stepping back, creating distance. Tomorrow's going to be long. Why? Because you're meeting my world, and my world doesn't do gentle introductions. He left her standing there with questions stacking up like kindling waiting for a match. Sleep came in fits and starts, punctuated by dreams of blood on knuckles and eyes that saw too much. When morning light finally bled through the windows, Alara gave up pretending and got out of bed. The kitchen smelled like coffee and something else, bacon, eggs, the kind of breakfast that required effort. Roman stood at the stove in jeans and a t-shirt that showed off arms she'd only seen hints of before, cooking like it was the most natural thing in the world. You cook? She couldn't keep the surprise out of her voice. I do a lot of things that would surprise you. He plated eggs with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. Sit. She sat. He put food in front of her, perfectly cooked eggs, bacon that was crispy but not burned, toast with butter melting into golden pools. It looked better than anything the Vance's personal chef had ever made. Where'd you learn to cook? Necessity. Roman sat across from her with his own plate. When you grow up without money, you learn to take care of yourself or you don't survive. It was the first personal thing he told her. She filed it away, adding it to the growing collection of puzzle pieces that made up Roman Drax. They ate in silence for a while. Comfortable silence, which was new. The Vances had specialized in uncomfortable quiet, the kind that pressed down on you until you wanted to scream just to break it. Tell me about today, Alara said finally. What am I walking into? Roman leaned back in his chair. Lunch with my associates. People who work with me, for me, in various capacities. They'll want to meet you, assess you. Judge me, you mean? That too. He didn't sugarcoat it. They need to know you're not a liability, that you can handle being in this world without breaking. And if I can't, then we adjust. He said it like it was simple. But I think you can. You don't know me. I know the Vances tried to break you for 2 decades and you're still standing. That's not nothing. The words landed warm in her chest. She pushed them away. Couldn't afford to get attached to compliments from a man who killed people before breakfast. What do I wear? Roman smiled. Something that says you belong. The closet stocked. The closet was more than stocked. It was a designer boutique, labels she recognized, styles she'd seen in magazines. Everything tailored to fit her perfectly. Someone had studied her measurements, her coloring, her entire existence and translated it into a wardrobe that probably cost more than a car. She chose a dress, black, simple, expensive, in the way that didn't scream money, but whispered it. Heels that added 3 inches and made her feel less small. Minimal jewelry. Hair down because tying it up felt too much like armor, and she was trying not to look terrified. When she came out, Roman was waiting in a suit that made him look like he owned boardrooms and broke kneecaps with equal efficiency. His eyes traveled over her, assessing. Perfect, he said. You look like you belong. I don't. You will. The restaurant was called Apex, and it sat on the top floor of a building that Roman apparently owned. The elevator required a key card to access. Security cameras everywhere. 2 men in suits who nodded at Roman and looked at Alara like they were memorizing her face for later. The private dining room was all windows and steel, modern enough to feel cold. 4 people waited inside and they all looked up when Roman entered, their attention sharpening like wolves noticing fresh meat. Everyone, this is Alara, my wife. Roman's hand settled on her lower back, possessive and grounding. Alara, my associates. A woman stood first, tall, black, beautiful in a way that made Alara feel underdressed despite the designer label. Naomi Cross. I handle acquisitions. She offered her hand. Her grip was firm, testing. Welcome to the family. Family. The word felt loaded. Next was a man who looked like he bench-pressed trucks for fun. Shaved head, tattoos crawling up his neck, eyes that had seen things. Marcus Vale? Security. Not the Marcus I know, I hope, Alara said, without thinking. Vale grinned. Depends. You know any Marcus who deserves a broken jaw? At least one. His grin widened. I like her already. The third was older, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than some houses. David Chen, legal counsel. His handshake was perfunctory. His eyes were calculating. Interesting choice, Roman. Careful, David. Roman's voice carried a warning. The last person didn't stand. Young, maybe Alara's age, with red hair and freckles and a laptop open in front of her. Sienna Park, tech. She waved without looking up. Sorry, dealing with a situation. Always dealing with a situation, Naomi said, sitting back down. That's why we keep her. They settled around the table. Food appeared, brought by staff who moved like ghosts and disappeared just as quickly. Alara picked at her plate, hyper-aware of everyone watching her, judging her, trying to figure out if she was an asset or a liability. So, Naomi said, cutting her steak with surgical precision, how are you adjusting to married life? It's been 3 days. Long enough to have opinions. Alara met her eyes. It's different from what I expected. Better or worse? Jury's still out. Naomi laughed. Honest, that's refreshing. The Vances must be thrilled to be rid of you, David said, his tone suggesting he knew exactly how thrilled they weren't. Marcus Vance has been making noise about breach of contract. Roman's expression went cold. Let him make noise. He's threatening legal action. He can threaten all he wants. He signed papers, took payment. The debt is settled. Settled with interest, Sienna added, finally looking up from her laptop. I may have accidentally frozen several of their offshore accounts this morning. Oops. Roman smiled. Accidents happen. Alara's stomach twisted. You're destroying them. I'm protecting my interests. Roman's eyes found hers. They tried to sell you and keep claiming ownership. That doesn't work. They're still my family. They were never your family. Naomi's voice was sharp. Family doesn't sell their children to cover gambling debts. The words hung there. Gambling debts. Not investments gone wrong, not financial complications. Gambling. Marcus gambles, Alara heard herself ask. David nodded. High stakes, underground circuits. He's been bleeding money for years. The business legitimate fronts are barely keeping him afloat. Everything shifted. Every conversation, every careful distance. Every time the Vances had looked at her like she was expensive furniture they regretted buying. It wasn't just that they didn't want her. It was that keeping her cost money they'd rather lose at card tables. Roman's hand found hers under the table. Breathe. She hadn't realized she'd stopped. Lunch continued, but Alara barely tasted her food. The conversation flowed around her. Business talk, territory disputes, someone named Victor who was moving in on the docks. She caught fragments, piecing together a picture of Roman's world that was bigger and more complicated than she'd imagined. These people weren't just criminals. They were professionals, organized, smart, running operations that required the kind of coordination most legitimate businesses would envy.
"You're quiet," Vale observed, watching her. "Overwhelmed?" "Processing." "Fair enough. It's a lot." "Marcus, the Vance one, does he know what you do?" She looked at Roman. "What you really do?" "He knows enough." Roman's expression was unreadable. "Why?" "Because he gave me to you anyway, knowing what you are, what this world is." "That bother you?" "It tells me exactly how little I meant to him."
Naomi made a sound that might have been sympathy. "For what it's worth, you mean something here. Roman doesn't bring people into this room unless they matter." It should have felt good. It mostly felt terrifying. The lunch ended with handshakes and promises to meet again soon. Vale clapped Roman on the shoulder and told Alara she'd do fine. Sienna waved without looking up. David gave her a look that said he was reserving judgment. Naomi kissed her cheek and whispered, "You're stronger than you think. Use it." In the elevator going down, Roman was quiet. Alara watched the numbers descend, feeling like she was falling even though she was standing still. "They liked you," Roman said finally.
"David didn't. David doesn't like anyone. It's his job to be suspicious."
"And the others?" "Naomi thinks you've got potential. Vale thinks you're funny. Sienna didn't notice you exist, which means you're not a digital threat, so that's approval in her world." The elevator doors opened. They walked to the car, different than yesterday's, sleek and black and armored like everything Roman owned. The driver was new too, or maybe not. Alara was starting to realize she didn't know who worked for Roman and who didn't. "Where are we going?" she asked as they pulled into traffic. "Somewhere you need to see." They drove away from the expensive districts, down into neighborhoods that got rougher the farther they went. Buildings with bars on windows. Graffiti. People on corners who looked at the car with expressions that ranged from fear to respect. Roman's territory. His kingdom. They stopped in front of a building that looked abandoned. Broken windows, peeling paint, chain-link fence. But when Roman led her inside, it was anything but empty. The space had been gutted and rebuilt into something functional. Computers. Weapons. People moving with purpose. A command center that would make military units jealous. "This is the heart of it," Roman said, watching her take it in. "Where we coordinate, plan, execute." "Execute what?" "Whatever needs executing." A man approached, older, scarred, moving like every step hurt. "Boss, we've got a problem." Roman's expression hardened. "What kind?" "The kind with a name. Victor Kozlov. He's making moves. Hit one of our shipments last night. Took everything." "How much?" $2 million in product, and he left a message. The man held out a phone. Roman looked at the screen and his jaw went tight. "What is it?" Alara asked. Roman showed her. A photo. Boxes of pills, cocaine, weapons. The shipment. And written across them in spray paint, "Thanks for the wedding gift." "He knows about me," Alara said. "Everyone knows about you." Roman pocketed the phone. "You're the first woman I've married. That makes you interesting. And interesting makes you a target." The words landed like ice water. "What does that mean?" "It means Victor thinks he can use you to get to me. Thinks you're a weakness." "Am I?" Roman looked at her, and his expression was brutal in its honesty. "Yes, but not the way he thinks." He turned to the scarred man. "Double security on the penthouse. Eyes on all access points. And find out where Victor's holding up. I want locations by tonight." "On it." The man left. Roman stood there looking at the screens showing various feeds, streets, buildings, people, his empire rendered in pixels and surveillance.
I should take you back, he said. I want to stay. Ilara. If I'm a target, I need to understand what that means. Hiding in the penthouse doesn't change anything.
He studied her. You're not what I expected. Disappointed? Intrigued. He led her through the space, explaining things in brief bursts. This room monitored shipments. That one coordinated with street dealers. Another handled money laundering through legitimate businesses. It was organized crime rendered as corporate efficiency. People nodded at Roman as they passed. Some looked at Ilara with curiosity, others with suspicion. One woman, young, hard-eyed, looked at her like she was an insult. Who's that? Ilara asked after they passed. Julia. She runs street operations in the South District. She hates me. She wanted my ring. Roman said it casually. Thought she'd earned it. Your existence proved her wrong. Great. Another enemy. They ended up in an office at the back, sparse, functional, with windows overlooking the warehouse floor. Roman closed the door and the noise cut to a muted hum. This is dangerous, he said. You being here, knowing this. I'm already in it. You married me. That made me part of it whether I know the details or not. Most wives don't want the details. I'm not most wives. He smiled and it was sharp. No, you're really not. His phone buzzed. He looked at it and his expression went dark. What? The Vances. He showed her a text from an unknown number. We need to talk about our daughter. Come alone. That's Vivian, Ilara said, recognizing the phrasing. She only calls me that when she wants something. When did you last see her? Yesterday, lunch. She wanted to remind me I'm still a Vance and shouldn't embarrass the family. What did you say? That I'm not afraid of her anymore? Roman's smile was proud and predatory. I bet she loved that. She threatened me, said you'd get bored, and when you did, I shouldn't come crying to them. And now she wants to talk. He pocketed the phone. Interesting timing. You think it's connected to Victor? I think the Vances are drowning and looking for life rafts, and you're the rope they think they can pull themselves up with. The metaphor was ugly but accurate. What are you going to do? Meet with them, see what they want. Alone? They specified alone, which means they're planning something. Ilara's stomach dropped. You can't go. It's a trap. Probably. He said it like traps were inconvenient, not dangerous. But I'm curious what kind. Roman, I'll be fine. I've survived worse than the Vances. He started to leave. Ilara grabbed his arm without thinking. Take me with you. No. They're my problem. Let me handle them. You're not going anywhere near them. His voice went hard. Not until I know what they're playing at. I'm not a child. You're my wife, which means your safety is my responsibility. I didn't ask for your protection. You got it anyway. He pulled free gently. Vale will take you back to the penthouse. Stay there. Lock the doors. I'll be back before dark. He left before she could argue. Ilara stood in the office feeling fury and fear war in her chest. 3 days. She'd been married 3 days, and already she was a chess piece, a target, a problem to be managed. Vale appeared in the doorway. Come on, princess. Boss's orders. Don't call me princess. What should I call you? Pissed off? He grinned. That works too. The drive back was silent. Vale didn't try to make conversation, and Ilara didn't offer any. She stared out the window, watching the city pass by, thinking about Vivian's message, Roman's response, the way everyone in his world moved like soldiers following orders. The penthouse felt like a cage when they got back. Lock the doors, Vale said. Don't open them for anyone. Roman's orders. I know. He's very clear about his orders. Vale gave her a look that was almost sympathetic. He's trying to keep you alive. I know that too. Then stop fighting it. He left. Ilara locked the door and immediately wanted to unlock it. Walk out. Do literally anything except sit here waiting for Roman to come back from meeting with people who'd sold her like livestock. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Ilara. Vivian's voice, smooth and cold. I'm glad you're safe.
What do you want?
To see you. Talk. There are things you need to know about your husband. I know what he is.
Do you? Vivian's laugh was knife sharp. Did he tell you about the bodies? The people who've disappeared? The families destroyed? You sold me to him. You don't get to judge my choices now. I'm trying to help you. Vivian's voice softened, became almost maternal. It was the worst kind of manipulation. Meet me, just us. Let me explain.
Every instinct screamed trap, but underneath the fear was curiosity, that dangerous thing Roman had warned her about. Where? The Gramercy Hotel. Room 1415. 1 hour. The call ended. Alara stood there with the phone in her hand, knowing she should ignore it, knowing Roman would be furious, knowing this was exactly the kind of stupid decision that got people killed in the world she'd married into. She went anyway. The hotel was expensive and anonymous, the kind of place people went when they didn't want to be noticed. Alara kept her head down, crossing the lobby, took the stairs instead of the elevator, felt her heart trying to break through her ribs. Room 1415 was at the end of a quiet hallway. She knocked. Vivian opened the door. Alone. Dressed like she was going to lunch at her country club, all calculated elegance and cold precision. I didn't think you'd come, Vivian said. I almost didn't. But curiosity got you. Always your weakness. Alara stepped inside. The room was standard. Bed, desk, window overlooking the city. No sign of Marcus or anyone else. You said you had information, Alara said. I do. About Roman. About what he's planning. Which is? Vivian moved to the window. Destruction. He's systematically dismantling everything Marcus built, freezing accounts, burning business relationships, destroying us. You sold me to him. What did you expect? I expected him to take the money and leave us alone. Vivian turned, and for the first time she looked almost vulnerable. I didn't expect him to want revenge. For what? For things that happened long before you came into the picture. Vivian's expression hardened. Your husband isn't who he pretends to be. He's not some self-made crime lord. He's... The door burst open. 3 men, big, armed, moving fast. Alara's scream died in her throat as hands grabbed her, yanked her backward. She fought, clawed, kicked, connected with something soft that made someone grunt. But there were too many of them, and they were too strong. Sorry, darling, Vivian said, her voice returning to its usual ice. But you're worth more to us as leverage than as Roman Drax's wife. A cloth pressed over Alara's mouth and nose. Chemical smell, sweet, wrong. The room started spinning. Her last thought before darkness took her was that Roman had been right. Curiosity was dangerous. And she'd just proven exactly how dangerous it could be until she woke to cold. Concrete under her cheek. Zip ties cutting into her wrists. Her head felt like someone had filled it with cotton and broken glass. Alara forced her eyes open. Warehouse. Empty except for a few crates, a chair, a single light bulb swinging overhead like something out of a nightmare. Her phone was gone. Her shoes were gone. She was alone except for... footsteps. Marcus Vance walked into the light looking like he hadn't slept in days. Rumpled suit, bloodshot eyes, desperate. You're awake. Good. He pulled the chair over, sat down facing her. We need to talk about your husband. Alara's voice came out rough. Go to hell. I'm already there, thanks to you. Marcus leaned forward. Do you know what Roman Drax has done to us? To our family? You're not my family. We raised you. You bought me and regretted it for 20 years. That's not the same thing. Marcus's jaw tightened. Roman is using you to get to us. When he's done, he'll throw you away like garbage. Still better than what you did. You stupid girl. Marcus stood, started pacing. He's not some romantic figure. He's a killer, a monster, and you walked into his arms like a lamb. You shoved me. To save you. The laugh that came out of Alara was bitter as poison. From what? From him. He's given me more in 3 days than you gave me in 20 years. He's given you an illusion. Marcus stopped pacing, looked at her with something that might have been pity. Do you want to know who Roman Drax really is? I know who he is. You know what he's shown you. You don't know where he came from, what he's done,
who he's destroyed. Alara's heart hammered. Then tell me.
Marcus smiled and it was ugly.
Roman Drax isn't his real name. He was born Roman Castellano, son of a mid-level enforcer who got ambitious and got killed for it. Roman was 15 when he watched his father get executed. Know who ordered it? Silence.
My father. Your grandfather, technically. The man whose money paid for your education. Marcus watched her process it. Roman has been planning revenge for 15 years, building power, waiting. And when he found out Marcus Vance had a daughter, adopted, unwanted, perfect leverage, he made his move. The words landed like bullets. You're lying.
I wish I was. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Young Roman, maybe 16, standing next to an older man who had his eyes. That's his father, Antonio Castellano, executed for trying to take territory that belonged to the Vance family business. Alara stared at the photo, tried to find some difference between the boy in the picture and the man she'd married. Couldn't. So what? Her voice shook. Your family killed his father. He has a right to be angry.
He has a right to come after me. Marcus, Vivian, not you. Marcus put the phone away. But he's using you anyway. Married you to humiliate us, to show that he can take everything we have, even our daughter. I'm not your daughter. You're the closest thing we have. The admission hung there, pathetic and 20 years too late.
Why are you telling me this? Alara asked.
Because we need your help. Marcus crouched down to her level. Roman is destroying us. But if you leave him, publicly denounce him, tell the truth about what he is, you want me to betray him. I want you to save yourself. Marcus's eyes were desperate. Help us take him down and we'll give you anything you want. Money, freedom, a real life. This is my real life now? This is a cage dressed up as a penthouse. And your house was what? A museum of resentment? Marcus stood, frustration bleeding through. You're not thinking clearly. The drugs you used to kidnap me, to save you. By tying me up in a warehouse. Great rescue. Footsteps. Multiple. Vivian appeared with two men Alara didn't recognize. Hired muscle, probably. They looked at her like she was a problem they were paid to solve. Is she cooperating? Vivian asked. She's being difficult, Marcus said. Of course she is. She's always been difficult. Vivian moved closer, looking down at Alara with that expression she'd perfected, disappointment wrapped in disgust. We're trying to help you. By drugging me? Kidnapping me? Tying me up? Alara met her eyes. This is help? This is necessity. Vivian's voice went cold. Roman Drax has declared war on us. We're fighting back, and you're going to help us whether you want to or not. How? Vivian smiled. We're going to send him a message. Show him what happens when he thinks he can destroy a Vance. One of the men moved forward with a camera, started setting up a tripod. Alara's stomach dropped. What are you doing? Proof of life, ransom video, call it what you want. Vivian checked her makeup in a compact mirror because even now, even here, appearances mattered. Roman will pay anything to get you back, and when he does, we'll have enough money to disappear, start over. He won't pay. Of course he will. You're his wife. I'm a transaction. He said so himself. Something flickered in Vivian's expression. Doubt, maybe. We'll see. The camera started recording. The man behind it nodded. Vivian's face transformed, grief, desperation, the performance of a worried mother. Roman, if you're watching this, we have Alara. She's safe, unharmed. But if you want her to stay that way, you'll meet our demands. Marcus stepped into frame. $5 million, unmarked bills. You have 12 hours. If you involve the police, she dies. Vivian's voice broke on the word dies, Oscar-worthy manipulation. If you try to find us, she dies. If you don't pay, I get it. Alara's voice cut through. I die? Very dramatic. He's not going to pay. Vivian's mask slipped. Shut up. He doesn't love me. We've been married 3 days. I'm a chess piece, not a wife. I said shut up. Make me. The slap came hard enough to snap Alara's head sideways. Her cheek exploded in pain. Blood filled her mouth from where her teeth cut her lip. Cut the camera, Marcus said. The recording stopped. Vivian stood over her, breathing hard, hands still raised. You will cooperate, or
Or what? You'll kill me? Great plan. Really thought that through. We don't need you alive to make Roman pay. Vivian's voice dropped to something vicious. We just need him to think you are. The threat landed cold and real. Alara forced herself not to show fear. Do what you want. Roman knows what you are. This won't work.
It'll work long enough. Marcus checked his watch. 12 hours. Then we send another video, one he can't ignore. They left her there, tied up, bleeding, alone in the dark with nothing but the sound of her own breathing and the growing certainty that she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Time crawled. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Alara tested the zip ties. Too tight. Tested the knots. Too good. Tested her ability to stay calm and found it wanting. Her wrists burned. Her head throbbed. Her lip wouldn't stop bleeding. She focused on breathing, on not spiraling, on trying to think her way out of this. Roman would come. Wouldn't he? He'd said she mattered, that she was his responsibility. But Marcus was right. They barely knew each other. Why would he risk his life, his empire, for a wife he'd bought to settle a debt? Unless it wasn't about her. Unless it was about the Vances. About revenge. About finishing what his father started 15 years ago. She was a pawn in a war that started before she was born. The realization should have been devastating. Mostly it was just exhausting. More footsteps, different rhythm, slower. A man appeared in the light. Not Marcus, not the hired muscle. Older. Expensive suit. Face that had seen things and decided violence was efficient. Mrs. Drax. His voice was cultured, almost polite. I apologize for the accommodations. This isn't personal. Who are you? Someone who's owed a debt. The Vances promised me they could deliver Roman Drax. I'm here to collect. Victor. Had to be. If you're waiting for Roman to trade himself for me, you're going to be disappointed. I'm not waiting for a trade, Victor smiled. I'm waiting for him to show up, which he will. Because despite what you think, Roman Drax doesn't leave his people behind. It's his greatest weakness. He pulled out a gun, checked it casually. When he comes, Victor continued, and he will come, I'll kill him. Then I'll kill the Vances for being incompetent. Then, he looked at her. Well, we'll see if you're worth keeping or not. You're going to kill everyone. I'm going to eliminate competition. There's a difference. Not really, he laughed. You've got spine. I respect that. Shame you married the wrong man. He left. Alara sat in the dark, trying not to shake, trying not to think about Roman walking into an ambush, trying not to care that a man she barely knew might die because of her. Somewhere in the warehouse, a phone rang. Voices, raised, angry. Then, silence. The kind of silence that came before storms. Alara's breath caught. She knew that silence. Had felt it in the penthouse when Roman's expression went cold. The silence of violence waiting to happen. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted like thunder, rapid, controlled, professional, shouting, running, more shots, something heavy hitting the ground. Alara pressed herself against the wall, tried to make herself small, invisible. The darkness was absolute. She couldn't see anything, but she could hear everything, the sounds of people dying, of a warehouse becoming a war zone. Then, cutting through it all, a voice she recognized. Where is she? Roman. More shots. Closer. A scream cut short. Silence again. Light blazed. Flashlights. Armed men in tactical gear sweeping the space with military precision, and walking through them like he owned death itself. Roman. Blood on his face, gun in his hand, eyes that found her in the darkness and burned. He crossed the space in 3 strides, dropped to his knees in front of her, hands on her face, gentle, despite the violence still hanging in the air. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, scared in a way she'd never heard. I'm fine. Roman, he was already cutting her zip ties. Her hands came free, wrists raw and bleeding. He caught them carefully, his expression going dark when he saw the damage. Who did this? Vivian, Marcus, some guy named Victor. Victor's dead. Vivian and Marcus are... He stopped, looked at her. What do you want me to do with them? The question landed like a stone. He was giving her the choice Their lives or their deaths, and he'd execute whichever she decided without hesitation. I want to talk to them, Alara said. Roman studied her. You sure? Yes. He helped her stand. Her legs almost gave out, drugs still in her system, muscles cramped from hours on cold concrete. Roman caught her, held her steady. Vale, he called. Bring them. Vale appeared dragging Marcus by his collar. Another man, one of Roman's soldiers, had Vivian. They looked terrified. They should be. Roman positioned Alara in a chair, stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. Protection, support, threat. Talk, he said. Marcus and Vivian knelt in front of her, forced down by their captors. The reversal was almost poetic. Was any of it true? Alara asked. About Roman's father? The revenge? Silence. Answer her, Roman said quietly. The threat in his voice was implicit and absolute. Yes, Marcus finally said. My father ordered the hit on Antonio Castellano 15 years ago. Roman's been planning payback ever since. Alara looked up at Roman. Is that true? Yes. He didn't try to deny it. I've been building toward this for 15 years. When I found out you existed, unwanted and available, it was perfect. Marry the daughter they discarded, destroy them from inside their own family. The admission should have hurt. It did hurt. But underneath the pain was something else, respect for his honesty, maybe. So I was always just a weapon, Alara said. You were. Roman's hand tightened on her shoulder. But that changed. When? When you looked at me like I was worth more than what I could do for you. No one's done that in a very long time. The words hung there, raw and real. Alara turned back to the Vances. You sold me to settle gambling debts, drugged me, kidnapped me, almost got me killed for what? Money you'd just gamble away? We were trying to survive, Vivian said, and she actually sounded like she believed it. You were trying to save yourselves. There's a difference. Alara stood, walked to where they knelt, looked down at the people who'd raised her without love, shaped her without care, discarded her without thought. I could have Roman kill you, she said quietly. He would, right now, if I asked. Vivian's eyes widened. Marcus went pale. But I'm not going to. Alara took a breath. Because you're not worth it. You're not worth his time, his risk, or another second of my life. You're just nothing. She turned to Roman. Let them go. Alara chap. Let them go, broke, ruined, but alive. That's worse than death for people like them. Roman studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Vale, make sure they leave the city. Tonight. If they come back, we handle it, Vale finished. Got it. The Vances were hauled to their feet. Vivian tried to say something, but Vale dragged her away before the words could land. Marcus looked back once, his expression unreadable. Then they were gone. The warehouse emptied, Roman's people melting away until it was just the two of them in the wreckage. You should have let me kill them, Roman said. Probably. They'll talk, 'cause problems. Let them. No one will believe them. Roman moved to stand in front of her, touched her cheek where Vivian had hit her, his fingers feather light on the bruise. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For all of it. Using you, putting you in danger, not being honest about why I wanted you. You're being honest now. Better late than never? Alara laughed, and it hurt her split lip. I walked into that hotel room knowing it was probably a trap. That's on me. You went because you wanted answers. Did you know? About your father and the Vances? I found out 3 years ago, started planning then. Roman's expression was unguarded for the first time since she'd met him. But the plan changed when I met you. How? It stopped being about revenge and started being about something else. What? He leaned his forehead against hers, figuring that out. They stood like that in the ruins of the warehouse, two people who'd started as transactions and become something neither of them had names for yet. Take me home, Alara whispered. Roman did. The penthouse felt different when they got back. Safer, more real. Roman led her to the bathroom, ran water in the enormous tub, added something that smelled like lavender. Get in, he said. I'll bring you something to eat. Roman, please let me take care of you. She got in. The hot water burned her wrists, soothed her muscles, washed away the worst of the fear. She heard Roman moving in the other room, phone calls in rapid Italian and English, orders being given, pieces being moved on whatever chessboard he operated on. When he came back, he carried a tray, soup, bread, tea, that was probably exactly the right temperature. He set it on the edge of the tub, sat on the floor beside it. "Eat," he said. She did. He watched her like she might disappear if he looked away. "What happens now?" Alara asked finally. "Now we finish it." "Finish what?" "The Vances are ruined, but they're not gone. Victor is dead, but his organization isn't. There are loose ends, threats, people who think you're a weakness they can exploit." "Am I? A weakness?" Roman's smile was sharp and certain. "You're the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me, but not in the way they think." He stood, offered his hand. She took it. He wrapped her in a towel that was somehow warmed, led her to the bedroom, pulled back covers that felt like clouds. "Sleep," he said. "Tomorrow we deal with the world. Tonight, you're safe." Alara caught his wrist before he could leave. "Stay." He hesitated. "You sure?" "I'm sure." He got into bed beside her, over the covers, fully dressed, careful not to touch her without permission. But he was there, solid, real, protection that felt less like possession and more like partnership. Alara reached for his hand in the dark. He laced his fingers through hers. "Roman? Yeah? Thank you for coming for me. Always." His voice was certain as gravity. "I'll always come for you." She believed him. And somewhere between the warmth of his hand and the safety of his presence, Alara fell asleep and dreamed of burning bridges and flying. Tomorrow they'd face whatever came next. Tonight, she was exactly where she needed to be. Morning came with this kind of light that made everything look clean and new, like the world had forgotten about warehouses and zip ties, and the particular sound a gun makes when it fires at close range. Alara woke to find Roman gone, his side of the bed cold, a note on the pillow in that sharp handwriting she was learning to recognize. "Meeting, back by noon. Stay inside. R." She crumpled the note, smoothed it out, read it again like the words might change. The penthouse felt too quiet. She showered until her skin turned pink, dressed in clothes that still felt too expensive to belong to her, tried to eat breakfast and managed half a piece of toast before her stomach rebelled. The bruises on her wrists had darkened overnight, purple and black, stark reminders that yesterday wasn't a nightmare she could wake up from. Her phone sat on the counter. New. Roman must have replaced it while she slept. She picked it up, scrolled through contacts that were mostly empty except for numbers she didn't recognize. Roman's people, probably. A safety net or a surveillance system, she couldn't tell which. A text came through. "Unknown number. You need to see this. Meridian Hotel. Room 1122. Come alone. Trust me. NN. Naomi? The woman from lunch who'd looked at her like she was worth assessing? Every instinct Roman had tried to drill into her in the past few days screamed trap. Don't go alone. Don't trust unknown messages. Don't be stupid. But the kidnapping had taught her something else. Sitting still and waiting for protection meant living in a cage, even if the cage had floor-to-ceiling windows and cost more than most people's houses. She went. The Meridian was upscale enough to have actual doormen and the kind of lobby where people spoke in whispers. Alara kept her head down, took the elevator to the 11th floor, found room 1122 at the end of a hallway that smelled like expensive carpet cleaner. She knocked. The door opened. Naomi stood there in jeans and a sweater, looking less polished than she had at lunch, but somehow more real. Her expression was grim. "You came. Good." Naomi pulled her inside, locked the door. "We don't have much time." "Time for what?" "For me to show you something before Roman buries it so deep you'll never find it." Naomi moved to the desk where a laptop sat open, screen dark. "I like you, Alara. I think you're smarter than Roman gives you credit for. But you're walking around blind, and that's going to get you killed." "What are you talking about?" "Sit down." Alara sat. Naomi hit a key, and the screen blazed to life. Security footage, timestamps in the corner, black and white, and grainy but clear enough. "This is from 3 months ago," Naomi said. "Viktor Kozlov's territory, his main distribution center." The footage showed a warehouse, people moving in and out with packages. Standard criminal operation, nothing shocking. Then a man walked into frame and Alar's breath stopped. Roman. Younger looking, different clothes, but unmistakably him. He was talking to Victor, laughing even, shaking hands. The timestamp said this was 3 months before Alar's wedding, before the Vances offered her up, before any of this started. I don't understand, Alara said. Keep watching. The footage jumped forward. Same warehouse, different angle. Roman and Victor in what looked like an office, papers spread between them. Victor pushed something across the desk, a folder thick with documents. Roman opened it, studied the contents, nodded. Naomi paused the video, zoomed in on the papers. Alara could just make out words. Vance Holdings, asset transfer, her own name in typed letters. They were planning it together, Naomi said quietly. Roman and Victor, the whole thing. That's not possible. Victor tried to kill him. Victor tried to kill him after the plan went sideways. After Roman decided to keep you instead of using you as leverage and moving on. Naomi pulled up another file. Financial records, transfers, dates that lined up with her wedding. They were partners. Victor provided the intel on the Vances' gambling debts. Roman provided the pressure. Together they were going to squeeze the Vances dry, take everything, split it 50-50. Alara's hands went numb. You're lying. I wish I was. Naomi's expression was almost pitiful. Roman's been playing you from the start. Not just about revenge, about everything. He and Victor had a deal. Ruin the Vances, take their assets. You were supposed to be collateral. Something to trade or sell or dispose of when you stopped being useful. Then why did he kill Victor? Because Victor wanted to stick to the original plan. Use you as leverage, bleed the Vances, split the profits. But Roman changed his mind, started keeping you close, acting like you mattered. Naomi leaned forward. Victor didn't try to kidnap you to hurt Roman. He tried to kidnap you to remind Roman what you were supposed to be. Merchandise, not a wife. The words landed like knives. Alara stared at the screen, at the frozen image of Roman and Victor laughing together, and felt something crack inside her chest. Why are you showing me this? Because David was right to be suspicious. Because I've worked for Roman for 5 years and I've never seen him get attached to anything except revenge and profit. Because you deserve to know what you're really part of. Naomi closed the laptop. And because when this blows up, and it will blow up, you need to know which side you're on. What's that supposed to mean? It means Roman's enemies know about the partnership. Know it fell apart. They're going to use it, and you're the evidence that Roman went soft, broke his word, betrayed an ally for a woman he barely knows. Naomi stood. When they come for him, and they will come, you need to decide if you're dying beside him or getting out while you still can. Alara's voice came out harder than she felt. You work for him. Why tell me this? Because I work for him, not die for him. There's a difference. Naomi moved to the door. I've got 30 minutes before Roman notices I'm not at the office. Use them. Think. Decide who you trust and why. And for fuck's sake, Alara, stop believing everything dangerous men tell you just because they say it pretty. She left. Alara sat in the hotel room with her thoughts spinning like debris in a hurricane. The footage could be fake, doctored. Naomi could be playing her own game, trying to drive a wedge between her and Roman for reasons that had nothing to do with helping. But the timestamps matched, the locations matched, and the look on Roman's face in that grainy footage, relaxed, confident, calculating, that matched too. Her phone buzzed. Roman, where are you? She stared at the message, typed and deleted 3 different responses. Settled on, out, back soon, where? Running errands. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. What kind of errands? The kind that don't require permission. The dots stopped. Her phone rang immediately. She let it ring. Let it go to voicemail. Turned the phone face down on the desk and tried to breathe through the feeling that her ribs were closing in on her lungs. She needed proof. Real proof. Not just Naomi's word and some surveillance footage that could mean anything. She needed to talk to someone who had no reason to lie. David Chen, the lawyer, the one who'd looked at her like she was a problem he was waiting to solve. She found his number in her new phone. Roman must have programmed it in, which was either thoughtful or controlling, and she was starting to lose track of which. She called. Alara. David's voice was neutral, professional. What can I do for you? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. I'm a lawyer. Honesty is negotiable. David, what do you want to know? She took a breath. Was Roman working with Viktor Kozlov before my wedding? Silence. Long enough that she thought he'd hung up. Where did you hear that? David asked finally. Answer the question. I can't. Can't or won't. Both. David's voice dropped. Elara, whatever you think you know, whatever someone showed you, let it go. Roman is lying to me? Using me? Planning to trade me like property? Protecting you from things you don't need to understand. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. David paused. Go home. Talk to Roman. And for both our sakes, pretend we never had this conversation. He hung up. Elara sat there with the dead phone in her hand and the sick certainty growing in her gut that Naomi was telling the truth. David hadn't denied it, hadn't defended Roman, had just told her to let it go like she was a child who'd asked an uncomfortable question. She left the hotel, walked without direction through streets that were too bright, too normal, filled with people who didn't know what it felt like to discover your entire life was someone else's chess game. Her feet took her downtown, to the building where Roman had shown her his operation, the warehouse command center where people moved with military precision. The guards at the entrance recognized her, nodded her through without question. Inside, the space hummed with activity, screens showing feeds from across the city, people on phones coordinating whatever needed coordinating in a criminal empire. Sienna sat at her usual station, laptop open, fingers flying across keys. She looked up when Elara approached, her expression flickering with something that might have been surprise. Mrs. Drax, didn't expect you here. I need to ask you something. Shoot. Can you recover deleted security footage? Sienna's fingers stopped moving. Depends. How deleted? 3 months. Maybe 4. From where? Viktor Kozlov's distribution center. Sienna's expression went carefully blank. That's a bad idea. Can you do it or not? I can do a lot of things. Question is why you want footage from a dead man's operation. Because I need to know if what I saw was real. Sienna studied her. Then she swiveled back to her computer, pulled up something that looked like code, started typing. This is going to take a few minutes, and if Roman asks, you never talk to me. Deal. The minutes stretched. Sienna worked in silence, her screen filling with lines of text that meant nothing to Elara. Finally, she stopped, pulled up a video file, found the server. Footage got archived when we seized Victor's assets after Roman killed him. Sienna glanced at her. You sure you want to see this? Yes. Sienna hit play. Same warehouse, different angle than what Naomi had shown her. But there, Roman and Viktor, sitting across from each other like old friends. The audio was garbled, but she could make out pieces. Victor's voice. Vances are bleeding. Another month and they'll be desperate. Roman. The girl's the key. Adopted. Expendable. Viktor. Marry her. Leverage the family connections. Take everything. Roman. When it's done, we split it. Partners. They shook hands, smiled, talked about her like she was cargo. The footage jumped forward. Days later, based on the timestamp. Roman alone this time, on the phone. His voice clearer. I know what we agreed. I'm handling it. No, she's not a complication. She's an asset. Viktor, I don't care what you think. The plan works better this way. Because I said so. Fine. We'll discuss it after the wedding. The video ended. Elara stood very still, watching her reflection in the blank screen. Behind her, she could see Sienna watching her, waiting for a reaction. You knew, Elara said quietly. I knew there was a partnership. I didn't know the details. Does everyone know? Naomi, Vale, David? Naomi suspected. David probably knows everything. He's the lawyer. Vale, Sienna shrugged. Vale does what Roman tells him, doesn't ask questions. And you? I handle tech. I see things. Doesn't mean I judge them. Elara turned to face her. How can you work for someone who does this? Because everyone does this. Different scales, different methods, same game. Sienna closed her laptop. You think legitimate business is cleaner? You think the Vances made their money without breaking people? At least Roman's honest about what he is. He lied to me. He married you. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. Sienna's expression softened slightly. Look, I get it. Finding out you're part of someone's plan sucks. But Roman didn't have to keep you, didn't have to give you your own room, your own space, your own choices. He could have locked you up, used you, thrown you away when the partnership with Victor fell apart. He didn't. That doesn't make it okay. No, but it makes it complicated. And complicated is where you get to decide what you do next. The elevator dinged across the warehouse. Alara didn't need to look to know who it was. She could feel Roman's presence like a pressure change before a storm. He crossed the space in long strides, his expression locked down tight. When he reached her, his eyes went to Sienna first. What did you show her? The truth, Sienna said. You're welcome. Roman's jaw clenched. He looked at Alara, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something like fear in his eyes. We need to talk, he said. No kidding. He led her to the office at the back, the same one where he'd brought her before, where she'd felt like she was being inducted into something secret and important. Now it just felt like a room where secrets went to multiply. Roman closed the door, leaned against it like he was blocking her exit. You saw the footage, he said. Not a question. Naomi showed me. Sienna confirmed it. David wouldn't deny it. Alara kept her voice level through sheer force of will. You and Victor were partners. You planned the whole thing together. My marriage, the Vance takeover, everything. Yes. The admission landed like a slap. No excuses, no justifications, just yes. You were going to use me as leverage and throw me away when you were done. That was the plan. And then what? You decided you liked me? Grew a conscience? Something like that. Alara laughed, and it came out broken. You're unbelievable. You kidnapped me through marriage, planned to sell me or trade me or whatever, and now you want me to believe you had a change of heart? I don't want you to believe anything. Roman moved away from the door, closer to her. I want you to look at what I've done, not what I plan to do. I gave you freedom, space, choices. I came for you when the Vances took you. I killed Victor when he tried to use the original plan. Actions, Alara, not intentions. Actions built on lies. Everything is built on lies. The Vances lied about loving you. Society lies about being fair. People lie every day about who they are and what they want. At least I'm telling you the truth now. Because you got caught. Because you deserve to know. His voice rose for the first time, cracking the careful control. You think I wanted this? You think I planned to care about you? You were supposed to be easy, simple, a means to an end, and then you opened your mouth and had opinions and looked at me like I was a person instead of a monster, and everything got complicated. So this is my fault? This is nobody's fault. It's just what happened. Alara turned away from him, stared out the window at the warehouse floor below, where people worked for a man who lied as easily as breathing. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the glass to make them stop. I need time, she said. Time for what? To think. To figure out if I can trust anything you've said, if I can trust you. You can. Based on what? Your word? She looked back at him. Your word is worthless, Roman. You admitted it yourself. You were going to use me and throw me away. Why should I believe that changed? Because I'm standing here telling you the truth when I could have buried it. Because I could have let Naomi disappear, had Sienna delete the files, made sure you never found out. Because I'm giving you the choice to leave, and I'll let you go if that's what you want. The offer hung between them. You'd really let me go? Alara asked. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. I'll give you money, protection, whatever you need to start over. Roman's expression was carved from stone. But I'd rather you stay. Why? Because despite everything I planned, despite every logical reason not to, I care about you. And I think you care about me too, even if you hate yourself for it right now. He was right. She did care. Hated that she cared. Hated that even knowing he'd planned to use her, part of her still wanted to believe the version of Roman who'd held her hand in the dark and promised to always come for her. I need to go, she said. Where? Away. Out. I don't know. She moved toward the door. Roman stepped aside, let her pass. Don't follow me. Alara, please, just don't. She left him standing in the office, and it felt like tearing something vital out of her chest. Vale caught up with her in the parking garage. You need a ride? I need to be alone. Not safe. I don't care. Roman will kill me if something happens to you. Then I guess you better hope nothing happens. She got into a car, one of Roman's, black and expensive and probably armored. Vale tried to get in the passenger seat. She locked the doors. Alaris, tell Roman I'm fine. Tell him I just need space. Tell him whatever you want. But don't follow me. She pulled out before Vale could argue. Drove without direction through streets she barely knew, her thoughts a hurricane of footage and lies and the particular way Roman had looked at her when he admitted he cared. Her phone rang. Roman. She declined the call. It rang again. She turned it off. The city blurred past. She ended up in a neighborhood she didn't recognize, middle class, normal, the kind of place where people had regular problems like mortgage payments and difficult bosses instead of criminal husbands and partnership betrayals. She parked, sat in the car with her hands gripping the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. A text came through on the car's display, connected to her phone somehow, even though it was off. Technology. Sienna's work, probably. Please come back. We need to talk. R. She ignored it. Another text, different number. You were right to run, but running won't save you. Call me. And Naomi. Then another. Unknown number, Mrs. Drax. This is David Chen. Turn around. Go back to the penthouse. There are things happening you don't understand. Her stomach dropped. She turned her phone back on. 17 missed calls, 23 texts, all in the last 30 minutes. Something was wrong. She called Roman. He answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? His voice was tight, controlled panic underneath. I don't know. Some neighborhood. David texted me. What's happening? How long ago did you leave the warehouse? 40 minutes. Why? Because Victor's people just hit 3 of my locations. They think I killed him over you, that you're the reason the partnership failed. They're coming for you, Alara. They're going to take you to prove a point. Ice flooded her veins. Victor's dead. His organization isn't. His brother Anton is. And Anton just declared war. As if on cue, a car pulled up behind her, black SUV, windows tinted, blocking her in. Another in front. She was boxed. Roman, drive. Now. Ram them if you have to. The car's armored. Just drive. Men got out of the SUVs, armed, moving with purpose. Alara threw the car in reverse, slammed her foot on the gas. The car lurched backward, hit the SUV with a crunch of metal and fiberglass. The SUV barely moved. Her car's tires spun. It's not working. Get down. Stay down. I'm coming. Glass shattered. Her window exploded inward. Hands grabbed her, yanked her sideways. She fought, scratched, bit, connected with something soft that made someone scream. But there were too many of them. A cloth over her face. Chemical smell. Different than last time. Stronger. Roman's voice distant, tinny through the phone. Alara, stay awake. But the darkness came anyway, swallowing her whole. She woke to cold water in her face. Gasped, choked, tried to move and couldn't, tied to a chair, arms behind her back, legs bound to the legs. Basement or warehouse, she couldn't tell. Concrete floor. Single light overhead. Pain in her skull like someone had split it open. A man walked into the light, and he looked like Victor. Same bone structure, same cold eyes, but angrier, hungrier. Mrs. Drax, finally. Anton Kozlov's voice was accented, Russian maybe. You're smaller than I expected. Victor said you were nothing special. Looking at you, I believe him. Alara's mouth tasted like copper and chemicals. Where am I? Somewhere your husband will never find you. Anton circled her chair. Victor was my brother, my partner. We built an empire together, and your husband killed him. Over you. A woman he'd known for days. That's not quiet. The word cracked like a whip. You don't speak unless I ask you a question. Understand? She nodded. Good. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to send Roman Drax a message, pictures of you, videos, proof that I have what he apparently values more than loyalty, more than business, more than sense. Anton leaned close enough that she could smell tobacco on his breath. And when he comes for you, because he will come, I'm going to kill him, slowly, while you watch, And then I'm going to decide if you're worth keeping or if you die with him. He won't come, Alara said. We fought. He knows I found out about the partnership, about the lies. He knows I was leaving. You think that matters? Anton laughed. Roman Drax doesn't let people take what's his. Doesn't matter if you hate him. You're still his wife, still his property. He'll come. Then you don't know him as well as you think. I knew Victor for 30 years. He told me everything about his partnership with Roman, how they planned to use you, how Roman changed the plan, how he kept you instead of using you for leverage. Anton straightened. Victor thought Roman went soft. I think Roman just found a different kind of leverage. Either way, you're useful. And useful is all that matters. He pulled out a phone, started recording. Say hello to your husband, Mrs. Drax. Alara stared at the camera. Her face was probably bruised, split lip from before that had reopened, blood drying on her chin. She looked like exactly what she was. A woman who'd been traded, lied to, kidnapped twice in 1 week, and was running out of ways to survive. Anything you want to say to him? Anton prompted. She thought about Roman, about the footage of him and Victor planning her life like she was a chess piece, about the way he'd looked at her in the warehouse office when he admitted the truth, about his hand in hers in the darkness promising always. She thought about the Vances selling her to cover debts, about Vivian's slap, about Marcus's desperate eyes when he realized his empire was crumbling. She thought about who she'd been a week ago, invisible, controlled, decorative, and who she was becoming in the wreckage of other people's plans. And she looked directly into the camera and said, I'm tired of being everyone's leverage. Anton stopped recording, looked at her with something almost like respect. Interesting answer. He sent the video, put the phone away. Now we wait. Hours crawled past. Anton left her alone in the dark, guards stationed somewhere she couldn't see. Her wrists burned where the ropes cut. Her head throbbed. Her thoughts spiraled. Roman would come. She knew it. Whether he cared about her or just his reputation, whether their marriage was real or transaction, he'd come. And people would die. Maybe including her. Unless... She tested the ropes. Tight. Professional. No give. She tested the chair, bolted to the floor. She tested her fear and found it had transmuted into something else. Anger, maybe. Determination. The slow-burning realization that she was done being cargo. Footsteps. Anton returned with a laptop, set it up on a crate in front of her. Your husband sent a response. He hit play. Roman's face filled the screen. He looked like death, jaw tight, eyes burning, blood on his collar. Behind him, she could see what looked like bodies. A lot of them. Anton. Roman's voice was ice. You made a mistake. Did I? Anton's voice came from off-screen. He'd clearly sent a message first. You took my wife. That's not leverage. That's suicide. Big words from a man who betrayed my brother. Victor betrayed our partnership when he tried to use Alara against me. I ended him for it. You want the same fate? Keep her. What are you offering? Everything Victor wanted. Territory. Assets. 50-50 split like we originally planned. You let Alara go, we go back to business. Anton leaned into frame beside Alara. And if I don't? Then I burn your organization to the ground, kill everyone you've ever cared about, and take her back over your corpse. Your choice. The video ended. Anton looked at Alara. He values you. Good. That makes this easier. You're not going to trade me? Trade you? No. Anton smiled and it was ugly. I'm going to kill you. Send him your body. Break him. Then take everything while he's grieving. Much better plan. He pulled out a gun. Alara's heart slammed against her ribs. This was it. The end. Killed in a basement by a stranger because she'd married the wrong man for the wrong reasons and got caught in the wrong war. But before Anton could raise the weapon, the lights went out. Gunfire exploded in the darkness. Automatic weapons. Close. Deafening. Alara threw herself sideways, chair and all, hit the concrete hard enough to see stars. More shots. Screaming. The wet sound of bullets hitting flesh. Hands grabbed her in the dark. She tried to fight. It's me! Roman's voice. Stop fighting! He cut her ropes with quick efficiency, pulled her up. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel him. Solid, real, blood warm. Can you run? Yes. Then run! He pulled her through the darkness by touch and instinct. Behind them, more gunfire. Someone shouting orders in Russian. Explosions that shook the walls. They hit stairs, climbed, burst through a door into blinding light. Warehouse, massive, filled with smoke and chaos. Roman's people everywhere, locked in combat with Anton's forces. It looked like a war zone. Roman shoved her toward an exit. Vale's outside. Go. What about you? I'm finishing this. Roman. He kissed her hard, fast, tasting like smoke and blood. Go, now. He turned back toward the fighting. Alara ran. Vale grabbed her the second she cleared the door, pulled her to a car, shoved her inside. The warehouse behind them lit up with another explosion, flames pouring from broken windows. Where's Roman? She gasped. Handling it. He's going to get killed. He's going to do what he does, and we're going to get you somewhere safe. They drove fast through streets that blurred together. Alara twisted in her seat, watching the warehouse shrink in the distance, smoke rising like a funeral pyre. Take me back. No. Vale. Roman's orders were clear. Get you out. Keep you safe. That's what I'm doing. I don't care about his orders. You should. Because following them is the only reason you're alive right now. They pulled up to a building she didn't recognize, not the penthouse, somewhere else. Nondescript. Industrial. Vale led her inside, down corridors that looked like they'd been designed to be forgettable, into a room that had basic furniture and nothing else. You stay here until Roman comes for you, Vale said. How long? As long as it takes. He left, locked the door. She heard his footsteps fade. Alara stood in the empty room, covered in blood that mostly wasn't hers, shaking from adrenaline crash, and tried to process what had just happened. Roman had come for her. Again. Had torn through Anton's operation like a force of nature, had kissed her like she mattered and sent her away to keep her safe. But he'd also lied to her, planned to use her, built their entire relationship on a foundation of manipulation and revenge. She didn't know which version of Roman was real, didn't know if she could trust him, didn't know if she even wanted to. The door opened. She spun, expecting Vale or one of Roman's soldiers. Instead, Naomi walked in, looking grim. We need to leave, Naomi said. Now. What? Where's Roman? Probably dead or dying. Anton had reinforcements. Roman walked into a trap. Naomi grabbed her arm. And when Anton finishes with him, he's coming for you. We have maybe an hour head start. I'm not leaving. You want to die? Naomi's voice went hard. Because that's what happens if you stay. Anton will torture you to make Roman watch, then kill you both. Your only chance is to run, now, while you still can. Alara's thoughts spun. Every instinct said trust Roman. But Roman had lied, had built their marriage on manipulation. Maybe Naomi was right. Maybe running was the only option. Where would we go? I have contacts, people who can hide you where Roman's enemies can't find you. New identity, new life. You'll be free. Free. The word tasted like ash and possibility. What about Roman? What about him? He used you, lied to you, nearly got you killed twice. Naomi moved toward the door. You don't owe him anything. Come on. Alara looked around at the empty room. Thought about the penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows. About Roman's hands careful on her bruises. About footage of him planning to throw her away. About the way he'd kissed her before running back into fire. I need proof, she heard herself say. Proof that Roman's in trouble. Proof that leaving is the right choice. Naomi pulled out her phone, showed her a live feed, the warehouse burning, bodies everywhere. And in the center, on his knees with a gun to his head, was Roman. Anton stood behind him, saying something the feed didn't capture. Roman's face was bloody but defiant. As Alara watched, Anton raised the gun, pressed it to Roman's temple, and the feed cut out. Alara's heart stopped. Is he dead or about to be? Naomi pocketed the phone. So here's your choice. Die with him like a good wife, or live. Your call. The room felt too small, too cold. Alara's hands were shaking again, and she couldn't make them stop. Roman might be dead, or dying, or already gone, and she was standing in a safe house with a woman offering escape, freedom, everything she'd wanted before she'd known what wanting cost. Come with me, Naomi said, extending her hand, or stay and die. 3 seconds. 2. 1. Alara looked at the offered hand and made a choice that would change everything. She stepped forward, grabbed Naomi's wrist, twisted hard, and used the momentum to slam her against the wall. "Who sent you?" Alara's voice came out low, dangerous, surprised even herself. "Really sent you?" Naomi gasped, more shocked than hurt. "What?" "The video was too convenient, too perfect. You show up the second Veil leaves, offer escape right when I'm most vulnerable?" Alara pressed harder. "Try again." For a moment, Naomi looked genuinely impressed. Then her expression shifted, became something harder. "Fine. Anton sent me. He figured you wouldn't trust him, but you might trust me. His insurance policy, if Roman survives, Anton gets you anyway." Naomi smiled. "Smart girl. Useless, but smart." "Where's Roman?" "Really? Probably killing Anton as we speak. That feed was old footage, recycled, but it doesn't matter." Naomi twisted, broke Alara's grip with surprising strength, shoved her backward. "Because even if Roman lives, you're coming with me. Anton's orders." She pulled a gun. Alara's options narrowed to nothing. She was unarmed, untrained, exhausted. Naomi had a weapon and no hesitation. The door exploded inward. Vale burst through with two other men, weapons raised. Naomi spun, fired twice. One of Vale's men went down. Vale returned fire. Naomi dove behind furniture. "Get her out!" Vale shouted. The other soldier grabbed Alara, pulled her into the hallway. Behind them, gunfire erupted. They ran. The building was a maze, corridors branching in every direction. Her escort pulled her left, right, through doors that looked identical. Behind them, footsteps pounded. They burst out into an alley. A car waited, engine running. The soldier shoved her inside, climbed in after her. The car peeled out. "Where's Vale?" Alara gasped. "Buying time." "Is Roman alive?" "Last I heard." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. Real safe this time." They drove in silence. Alara watched the city pass by and felt like she was coming apart at the seams. Every person she trusted had betrayed her or died trying to protect her. She didn't know who was working for who anymore. Didn't know what was real. The car stopped at a private airfield. Small planes lined up like toys. A jet sat on the tarmac, stairs deployed. "You're getting on that plane," the soldier said. "Where's it going?" "Away from here. That's all you need to know. I'm not leaving without Roman." "Roman's orders." "Roman isn't here." The soldier grabbed her arm, not gentle. "You're getting on that plane if I have to carry you." She tried to pull free. His grip tightened. They were halfway to the jet when headlights cut across the tarmac. A car, fast, black, familiar. It screeched to a stop 20 feet away. Roman got out. He looked like he'd crawled through hell, blood everywhere, torn clothes, limping, but alive. Unmistakably, impossibly alive. The soldier released Alara immediately, stepped back. Roman crossed the tarmac in a walk that was half stagger. His eyes found hers, and they were burning. "You were going to leave," he said. "I thought you were dead." "Would that have made it easier?" "I don't know." They stood 3 feet apart. The jet's engines hummed. Wind pulled at Alara's hair. Everything felt suspended, like the world was holding its breath. "Anton's dead," Roman said. "His organization is scattered. Victor's people are finished. The war's over." "For now." "For now," he agreed. "There'll be others. There's always others." "And what am I supposed to do? Keep getting kidnapped every time someone wants to hurt you?" "You're supposed to decide." Roman took a step closer. "The jet behind you goes to Switzerland. Cash. New identity. Vale will make sure you get settled. You can disappear. Be whoever you want. I won't stop you." "And if I stay?" "Then you stay knowing exactly what I am, what I've done, what I plan to do to you." His voice went rough. "No more lies. No more manipulation. Just the truth, however ugly." "Why would I choose that?" "Because despite everything, despite every reason to run, you haven't. Because you twisted Naomi's arm instead of taking her hand. Because when you thought I was dead, you looked like your world ended." He was close enough to touch now, didn't. "Because I think you're just as fucked up about this as I am." Alara's breath shook. "You lied to me." "I did. Planned to use me." "Yes. Nearly got me killed multiple times."
I know.
And you think I should stay because… What? You care about me now? I think you should stay because you want to. Roman's eyes held hers. Not because you're scared to leave, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because when you strip away the lies and the violence and all the terrible decisions that brought us here, there's something real between us, and you feel it too. He was right. She hated that he was right. The jet waited. Safety, freedom, everything she thought she wanted. Roman stood bleeding in front of her, dangerous, damaged, offering nothing but brutal honesty and the absolute certainty that life with him would never be simple. Behind her, the engines revved. In front of her, Roman waited. Alara closed her eyes, took a breath, made a choice. She opened her eyes and walked toward Roman. The soldier behind her exhaled. Relief or disappointment, she couldn't tell. The jet's engines began to wind down. Roman's expression didn't change, but something in his shoulders loosened, like he'd been holding tension he hadn't known was there. When she reached him, she didn't speak, just pressed her palm against his chest where blood was spreading through his shirt, feeling his heart hammer beneath her hand. "You're bleeding," she said. "I'm always bleeding." "You need a hospital." "I need to finish this." His hand covered hers. "Anton's dead, but his network isn't. They'll regroup, come back. Unless I cut the head off completely." "There's always another head." "Not if I'm thorough." Alara looked at the man she'd married, bloodied, dangerous, offering her nothing but violence and truth. A week ago, she would have run, would have taken the jet and never looked back. But a week ago, she'd been someone else, someone smaller, someone who let other people write her story. "What do you need?" she asked. Roman's eyes searched hers. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm staying anyway." He smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. "Then I need you to trust me, one more time." "That's a lot to ask." "I know." The drive back into the city felt different. Alara sat beside Roman in the back of an SUV that smelled like gunpowder and blood, watching him make calls in languages she didn't understand, seeing the machine of his empire mobilize through phone screens and clipped commands. This wasn't the Roman who'd cooked her breakfast. This was the Roman who built kingdoms on bones. They pulled up to a building she recognized, the warehouse command center, but now it was fortified, armed guards every 20 feet, vehicles blocking access points. It looked like a military installation. Inside, chaos had organized itself into purpose. Screens showed feeds from across the city. People moved with the efficiency of soldiers before battle. Sienna sat at her station with 3 laptops open, fingers flying. David stood near a conference table covered in papers, phone pressed to his ear. Vale was there too, blood on his sleeve but alive. They all looked up when Roman entered. The room went quiet. "Status," Roman said. David spoke first. "Anton's lieutenants are scattered. 3 are dead. 2 are in the wind. 1, Mikhail Petrov, is trying to rally what's left of the organization." "Where?" "The docks, warehouse district. He's got maybe 30 men, armed, dug in. He's waiting for you." "It's a trap," Vale added. "Has to be. He knows you're coming." "Of course it's a trap." Roman moved to the screens, studied the feeds. "How many entrances?" 4 main, dozen secondary. Sienna pulled up blueprints. "But he'll have them covered. Snipers on the roof. Probably explosives on the approaches." "So we don't approach." Roman's finger traced a line on the screen. "Water access? Old smuggling tunnels. They flood at high tide, but we've got 3 hours." "That's our entry." Roman turned to face the room. "Small team. Fast. We go in, eliminate Petrov, and anyone loyal to him. We end this tonight." "And the ones who run?" David asked. "Let them run. Let them tell the story. Roman Drax doesn't leave loose ends." His eyes swept the room. "Who's with me?" Vale stepped forward immediately. "Always." Sienna stood. "Someone needs to hack their comms. Might as well be me." 3 more of Roman's soldiers moved forward, men who looked like they'd walked through fire before and would do it again. Roman's eyes found Alara. "You stay here. With David. Safe." "No." The room went silent. "Alara, you asked me to trust you. Now you trust me." She moved to stand beside him. "I'm not sitting in another safe room while you walk into an ambush. I'm done being protected like I'm breakable. You're not trained for this. Then train me fast." Roman's jaw worked. She could see him calculating, weighing risks, trying to find an argument that would work. Finally, he turned to Vale. Give her a weapon. Show her how to use it. 5 minutes. Vale's eyebrows went up. Boss? 5 minutes. Vale led her to a side room lined with weapons that would make military units jealous. He pulled out a pistol, compact, matte black, lighter than she expected. This is a Glock 19, 15 rounds, point and shoot, that's all you need to know. He showed her how to hold it, how to aim, how to breathe through the recoil. You pull this trigger, someone dies. You ready for that? Alara's hands shook around the grip. I don't know. Then don't pull it unless you have to. But if you have to... Vale's eyes were serious. Don't hesitate. Hesitation gets you killed. He gave her a vest, Kevlar, heavy, uncomfortable. Strapped it tight. Checked her weapon twice. The whole thing took maybe 7 minutes. When they came back out, Roman was geared up. Tactical vest, multiple weapons. He looked at Alara and something crossed his face. Fear, maybe. Respect. Stay behind me, he said. Always. You see something move, you tell me. You don't engage unless there's no other option. Understood? Yes. And Alara, he caught her arm, pulled her close. You get a chance to run. You run. You don't wait for me. You don't try to be brave. You survive. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her forehead. Brief. Almost tender. Then the softness vanished and he was back to being the predator she'd married. They moved out in 2 vehicles. Roman's team in the lead SUV, backup following 30 seconds behind. The drive to the docks was silent except for weapons checks and the occasional update from Sienna on comms. The waterfront was industrial decay, old warehouses, rusted equipment, the smell of oil and salt water. They parked a quarter-mile out, approached on foot through shadows that felt alive with threat. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind a collapsed pier. Vale and another soldier cleared it, signaled all clear. Roman went first, Alara right behind him, the rest of the team filing in silently. The tunnel was brick and slime, water up to their ankles. Alara's breath echoed. Every sound felt amplified. Roman moved like he could see in the dark, one hand on the wall, weapon ready. They emerged inside the warehouse complex through a grate that Vale pried open. Alara pulled herself up into darkness that smelled like mildew and something else, cordite, recent. Someone had fired weapons here. Roman's hand signal, stop, listen. Voices above them, Russian, angry. Footsteps on metal catwalks. Sienna's voice crackled in their earpieces. I'm in their comms. Petrov's on the 3rd floor. 15 hostiles that I can count, maybe more. Weak points? Roman whispered. Generator room southeast corner. Kill their power. You kill their advantage. On it. Vale split off with 2 soldiers. Roman gestured for Alara to follow him. They moved through the warehouse like ghosts, using crates and machinery for cover. The first hostile appeared on a catwalk above. Young, nervous, AK-47, held like he'd seen it in movies. Roman signaled Alara to stay down. She crouched behind a shipping container while Roman moved into position. The takedown was silent. One moment the guard was there, the next he was on the ground, not moving. Roman dragged him out of sight, took his radio. They climbed stairs to the 2nd level. Alara's legs burned. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. The weight of the gun in her hand felt wrong and necessary at the same time. Voices ahead. 2 men arguing about positions, about whether Roman would really come, about what Petrov was paying them. Roman held up 3 fingers. 2. 1. He moved. 2 shots, suppressed. Both men dropped. Alara's stomach lurched, but she kept moving, kept following, because stopping meant thinking and thinking meant breaking. They reached the 3rd floor. Open space. Catwalks crisscrossing overhead. And in the center, lit by industrial lights, Mikhail Petrov. He was older than Anton, gray-haired, wearing an expensive suit that looked absurd in a warehouse. 3 men flanked him, weapons ready. Behind them, more soldiers. Too many. Roman Drax, Petrov's voice carried, accented and almost jovial. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come. Roman stepped into the light. Alara stayed in shadow like he'd told her. Her finger rested near the trigger guard. Mikhail, you're looking old. Funny. I was about to say you're looking dead.
Petrov smiled. Anton was my nephew. Viktor was my partner's son. You've killed people I loved. Did you really think I'd let that stand? I think you're trying to hold together an organization that died with Anton. I think you're desperate, and I think you know this ends one way. You're right, it does, Petrov raised his hand.
Lights blazed from every corner. Dozens of men appeared from hiding spots, on catwalks, behind crates, in doorways. 30 was a bad count. It was closer to 50. Ilara's blood went cold. See, Roman, I learned from Anton's mistakes. Petrov's smile widened. He underestimated you, thought killing you would be enough. But I'm thorough. I'm going to kill you, your men, and anyone who works for you. Send a message that the Kozlov name means something. You forgot my wife. Petrov's eyes swept the shadows, found Ilara.
Ah, yes, the famous Ilara. Come out, dear. Let me see what was worth burning down an empire for. Roman's hand signal was clear. Stay hidden. Ilara ignored it, stepped into the light. Petrov's expression shifted. Surprise, then calculation. Smaller than I expected. Prettier, though. Anton was right about that. Anton was a corpse the second he touched me, Ilara said, and her voice came out steadier than she felt. Petrov laughed. You've got spine, I respect that. Shame you'll die with him. Except she won't. Roman's voice went cold. She's walking out of here. Your men don't touch her. Why would I agree to that? Because if anything happens to her, I don't die quick. I die slow and angry, and I take as many of you with me as I can. Roman's eyes swept the room. How many are you willing to lose, Mikhail? 10 men? 20? All of them? Petrov considered. No deal, she's leverage. I keep her alive until you're dead, then I decide what to do with her. The lights went out. Vale had hit the generator. Darkness dropped like a curtain. Muzzle flashes erupted like lightning. Everywhere, chaotic, deadly. Ilara dropped to the ground, pressed herself flat. Bullets sparked off metal. Someone screamed. Roman's hand found her in the dark, pulled her behind a pillar. Stay down. Where are you going? To end this. He was gone. Ilara crouched in the darkness, listening to the sounds of people dying, trying to remember Vale's instructions. Point and shoot. Don't hesitate. A flashlight beam swept near her position. Footsteps. Someone searching. The beam found her. A man, young, scared, raised his weapon. Ilara raised hers faster. Their eyes met for 1 second that felt like forever. She pulled the trigger. The recoil jarred her arms. The noise was deafening even through the chaos. The man went down hard. Ilara stared at what she'd done, bile rising in her throat. She'd killed someone. Taken a life. Crossed a line there was no coming back from. No time to process. More footsteps. She moved, stayed low, navigated by memory and luck. Emergency lights kicked on, dim, red, painting everything in blood tones. Bodies on the ground, some moving, some not. She saw Vale across the room, locked in hand-to-hand combat with 2 men. Saw Sienna behind cover, laptop somehow still open, fingers flying even as bullets sparked around her. Saw Roman. He moved through the warehouse like death incarnate. Every movement efficient, brutal, final. Men fell around him. He was heading for Petrov, cutting through the soldiers between them with surgical precision. Petrov saw him coming, grabbed a hostage, one of his own men, used him as a shield. Stay back! Roman didn't slow. Petrov shot his own man, shoved the body at Roman, ran. Ilara's angle was clear. She had a shot. Petrov's back, fleeing toward an exit. Her hands raised the weapon, lined up the sights like Vale taught her, her finger on the trigger. Petrov turned, saw her. His expression went from panic to rage. He raised his weapon. Roman stepped into the line of fire. The shot that was meant for Ilara caught Roman in the shoulder. He staggered but didn't go down. Returned fire. Petrov ducked through a doorway. Go! Roman shouted at Vale. Get him! Vale and 2 soldiers pursued. Roman sagged against a wall, blood spreading from his shoulder. Ilara ran to him. You're hit. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine. He pushed off the wall, grimaced. Where did Petrov go? Roof access, Sienna called out. He's heading for the helipad. There's a helipad? There's always a helipad. Roman started moving. Come on. They climbed stairs, narrow, metal, spiraling up.
Alara's legs screamed. Roman was slower now, favoring his shoulder. Blood dripped on the steps. They burst onto the roof into wind and open sky. The city sprawled around them, lights like stars. And there, a helicopter. Rotors already spinning. Petrov climbed inside. Turned back, saw Roman, smiled. Raised his weapon. Roman pushed Alara down as bullets chewed through the rooftop. They rolled, came up behind a ventilation unit. More shots. The helicopter lifted. "He's getting away," Alara gasped. Roman pulled something from his vest. Small, black, remote detonator. "What's that?" "Insurance." He pressed the button. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The helicopter's fuel tanks went up like a firework. The aircraft lurched, spun, flames pouring from the engine. It made it maybe 100 feet before physics won. The crash was distant thunder, orange flames blooming in the darkness. Roman lowered the detonator. "Thorough." That's what he said. "I'm thorough too." Alara stared at the burning wreckage. There could have been a pilot, someone innocent. "There's no such thing as innocent in my world." Roman looked at her. "You need to understand that. Everyone who works for people like Petrov makes a choice. They chose this." "Like I chose you?" "You're still choosing. Every second you don't run." Sirens in the distance. Multiple. Close. "We need to go," Roman said. They made it down 3 flights before Roman's legs gave out. He sagged against the wall, face pale. The blood from his shoulder had soaked through his vest, dripping onto the floor. "Roman, keep going. Get to the extraction point. Vale will... I'm not leaving you." "Alara, no." She got under his good shoulder, took his weight. "We leave together or not at all." They staggered down the rest of the stairs. Vale met them at the bottom, took Roman's other side. Together they got him to the SUV. Sienna was already there, laptop packed, weapons secured. "Hospital?" "Safe house," Roman gritted out. "We've got people." The drive was a blur. Alara kept pressure on Roman's wound while he made calls, coordinated cleanup, made sure the story that would reach the police had nothing to do with him. Even bleeding out, he was managing his empire. The safe house was in a neighborhood that looked normal, too normal to hide criminals. They pulled into a garage that connected to a basement that had been converted into something between a clinic and an armory. A woman met them, older, professional, no questions. "Exam table, now." They got Roman onto the table. The woman cut away his vest, his shirt, assessed the damage with practiced efficiency. "Through and through. Missed the bone. You're lucky." "I'm good at being lucky." Roman's voice was strained. She worked in silence, cleaning, stitching, bandaging. Roman didn't make a sound, but Alara could see his jaw locked tight, could see the way his hands gripped the table edge hard enough to turn his knuckles white. When it was done, the woman gave him pills and instructions he probably wouldn't follow. Left them alone. The others had scattered, Vale to coordinate security, Sienna to handle digital cleanup, David to manage legal angles. It was just Roman and Alara in a basement that smelled like antiseptic and old concrete. "You should have run," Roman said finally. "You should have let me shoot Petrov." "You hesitated." "I killed someone tonight. In the warehouse. I shot him, and he died. And I can still see his face." Her voice cracked. "So yes, I hesitated." Roman sat up despite the pain, despite the fresh stitches, reached for her hand. "The first one's the hardest. It gets easier." "I don't want it to get easier." "Then you're in the wrong world." "Maybe I am." Alara looked at him, bloodied, bandaged, dangerous, even wounded. "But I'm here anyway." "Why?" It was the same question in different words. Why stay? Why fight? Why choose this life, this man, this violence? Alara thought about the girl she'd been a week ago. Decorative, invisible, living half a life in someone else's museum. She thought about Vivian's slaps and Marcus's distance and 20 years of being told her value was whatever they decided it was. She thought about Roman looking at her like she was worth something, like she was dangerous, like she mattered. "Because for the first time in my life, I'm choosing," she said. "Not being chosen, not being sold or traded or positioned. Me. Choosing you, choosing this, whatever the cost." Roman's expression softened into something that looked almost like wonder. Even knowing what I am? Especially knowing what you are. She moved closer. You're a killer, a criminal, a man who builds empires on violence, and you're also the first person who ever made me feel like I was more than decoration. He pulled her into his lap, careful of his injury, kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. She kissed him back, tasting blood and smoke and the particular flavor of choosing to burn instead of fade. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. There's more coming. Petrov was just one head. There are others, people who'll see tonight as weakness, opportunity. Then we handle them. We. She said it firm. Final. You asked me to trust you. Now you trust me. We're partners or we're nothing. Roman smiled, and it was sharp and true. Partners. A phone buzzed. Roman answered it, listened, his expression hardening. When? Pause. How many? Another pause. Hold position. I'm coming. He hung up, looked at Alara. What happened? The Vances. They're at the penthouse. I thought they left the city. They did. They came back. Roman stood, testing his shoulder. With lawyers and a court order. They're claiming the marriage was coerced, that I forced you, that they're taking you into protective custody. Alara's blood went cold. They can't do that. They're trying. David's there now, but he can only delay them so long. Roman grabbed a fresh shirt, hissed as he pulled it on. We need to end this, tonight, permanently. How? By giving them what they want. What's that supposed to mean? Roman looked at her and his eyes were calculating. It means you're going to face them, publicly. And you're going to make a choice that destroys them completely. The drive back to the penthouse felt like heading toward an execution. Roman made calls the entire way, to David, to Vale, to people Alara didn't know. By the time they pulled into the underground garage, he had a plan that terrified her. The elevator ride up was silent. Roman's hand found hers squeezed once. You don't have to do this, he said. Yes, I do. Alara, they sold me, kidnapped me, almost got me killed. Now they want to pretend they're rescuing me? She met his eyes. No, this ends tonight. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, and there, Vivian and Marcus Vance, flanked by 3 lawyers who looked expensive and uncomfortable. David stood between them and the living room, arms crossed, expression locked down. Behind them, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Alara could see news vans, cameras, reporters setting up lights. What the hell is this? She asked. Vivian turned, her expression morphing into concern that was practiced and perfect. Alara, thank God. We've been so worried. Worried enough to bring cameras? The press needs to know the truth, that you were coerced into this marriage, that we're here to bring you home. Vivian stepped forward. Marcus stayed back, looking uncomfortable. Come with us. Please, let us fix this. There's nothing to fix. Alara, he's brainwashed you. He's honest with me. That's more than you ever were. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. Mrs. Vance, Mrs. Drax, we have a court order. Pending investigation of marriage fraud, you're to be removed from this residence and placed in protective custody with your legal guardians. They're not my guardians. I'm 23. Actually, the lawyer pulled out papers. Due to certain irregularities in your adoption records and the coercive nature of this marriage, the court has granted the Vances temporary custodial rights until the investigation concludes. Alara's world tilted. That's not possible. It's very possible when you have the right judge, David said quietly. They've been planning this for days. Roman's hand on her shoulder steadied her. They can't force you. The second they try, I'll bury them in legal challenges that'll take years. By which time Alara will be an adult beyond contestation and your leverage disappears. The lawyer smiled. This is simple. Come peacefully, Mrs. Drax, and we handle this quietly, or we involve the police, the media, and you become the face of trafficking and coercion, whether it's true or not. You're threatening her, Roman said, his voice going cold. We're rescuing her. Vivian's performance was Oscar-worthy. From a monster who bought her like property. You sold me like property to save you from poverty,
from a life that would have destroyed you. Vivian's eyes actually welled with tears. We made mistakes. We know that. But we love you. We always have. Come home. Let us make this right.
It was masterful, the perfect manipulation. In front of cameras, with lawyers backing them up, they were rewriting history, making themselves the heroes, making Roman the villain, making Alara the victim who needed saving. And the worst part was, it would work. Public opinion would side with the family trying to save their adopted daughter from the crime lord who'd married her. The legal battle would be ugly and long, and even if Roman won, the damage would be done. Unless... Alara looked at Roman, at David, at the Vances with their lawyers and their cameras, and their perfectly constructed lie. She walked to the windows, looked down at the news crews, made a choice. "Open the windows," she said. "Alara," Roman started. "Open them. I want them to hear this." Roman hesitated, then nodded to David. The windows slid open. Cool night air rushed in. Below, the reporters looked up. Alara stepped close enough to the edge that her voice would carry. She didn't shout, didn't need to, spoke clear and firm, and let the truth do the work. "My name is Alara Drax, formerly Vance. The people behind me claim they're here to rescue me. They're not. They're here to silence me. So I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. All of it. Let you decide who the monster really is." "Alara, don't," Vivian started. "Shut up." Alara didn't look at her, kept her eyes on the cameras below. "The Vances adopted me 23 years ago, not out of love, out of tax benefits and social credit. I was a prop in their perfect family picture, something to show off at charity events and ignore the rest of the time." Behind her, she could hear the lawyers scrambling, talking in urgent whispers. "When I turned 23, Marcus Vance owed a debt, gambling debts, millions of dollars to dangerous people. So he sold me, traded me like an asset to Roman Drax to cover what he owed. I didn't have a choice. I had no money, no skills, nowhere to go. So I married him." More whispers. Marcus's voice. "This is slander. I have the contracts," David said quietly. "All of them. The debt, the payment, the marriage arrangement. You want to go legal? We'll go legal." Alara continued. "Roman Drax is a criminal. I'm not going to pretend he isn't. He's built an empire on things that would horrify most people. But he's never lied to me about what he is. Never pretended to be something he's not. The Vances pretended for 20 years. She turned to face Vivian and Marcus. Let the cameras catch her expression. "You want to know if I was coerced?" "Yes. By you. You raised me in a cage and called it family. You sold me and called it salvation. You came here tonight with lawyers and cameras and lies, and you want to drag me back into that life because admitting what you did would destroy your reputation." "We love you," Vivian tried. "You love your image. There's a difference." Alara's voice was steel. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave, tonight. You're going to drop this custody claim, this investigation, all of it, and you're never going to contact me again. And if we don't, then Roman releases every piece of evidence he has on your criminal activities. The gambling, the fraud, the offshore accounts. David has files 3 inches thick on your family's business practices. We bury you, publicly, permanently." Marcus went pale. Vivian's composure finally cracked. "You're bluffing," one of the lawyers said. David pulled out a tablet, held it up showing documents. "Want to test that theory?" Silence. Long and ugly. Finally, Marcus spoke. "We were trying to help you. You were trying to save yourselves. Again." Alara moved to stand beside Roman. "I'm done being your solution." Vivian looked at her with something that might have been genuine emotion, might have just been fear of exposure. "You're making a mistake." "Probably. But it's my mistake. My choice. Mine." She took Roman's hand. "Now leave." The lawyers conferred in whispers, gathered their papers. One by one, they left. Marcus followed without another word. Vivian paused at the elevator. "When this falls apart," she said quietly, "when he shows you who he really is, don't come crying to us. I know who he is. I also know who you are. And I'd rather take my chances with honest monsters than lying saints." The elevator doors closed on Vivian's face. Silence settled. David closed the windows, shutting out the night and the cameras and the city below. That was, he started. Stupid? Alara finished. I was going to say brilliant. David actually smiled. You just gave them a choice between scandal or silence. They'll choose silence. And if they don't, then we ruin them. Roman said it casual, certain, but they will. They're survivors. They know when they've lost.
Alara's legs suddenly felt weak. The adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation evaporated, leaving her shaking. Roman caught her, held her steady. It's over, he said. Really over. No more Vances, no more Petrov, no more wars tonight. Just tonight? Just tonight. David made his excuses and left. The penthouse felt enormous and quiet. Alara stood at the windows, looking at the city that suddenly felt less like a prison and more like a kingdom.
Roman came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. His shoulder had to hurt, but he didn't let go. You told them the truth, he said. Most of it. The part about me being a criminal who would horrify people? All true. And you're staying anyway. She turned in his arms. His face was exhausted, bloody, beautiful in the way broken things are when they refuse to shatter completely.
I'm staying because you're mine now, she said. Not in the way the Vances owned me. Not in the way Victor and Anton tried to use me. Mine. My choice. My husband. My disaster. He kissed her like the world was ending. Maybe it was. Maybe choosing this life, this man, this violence was the worst decision she'd ever make. But it was hers. They made it to the bedroom before his pain medication, and her exhaustion conspired to drop them both. Roman fell asleep still dressed, his good arm wrapped around her. Alara lay awake listening to him breathe, thinking about bodies in warehouses and blood on her hands, and the particular sound a helicopter makes when it explodes. She'd killed someone tonight. Crossed a line there was no uncrossing. But she'd also chosen herself, claimed her own life, told her truth to cameras, and didn't flinch. She didn't know if that made her stronger or just different. Maybe there was no difference. Sleep finally took her somewhere around dawn. She dreamed of fire and falling and waking up to find she'd grown wings. When she woke for real, Roman was already up despite his injury, standing at the windows with his phone in hand. His expression was grim. What's wrong? She asked. He turned, held out of the phone. A news article. Headline: Vance family announces retirement from public life amid personal tragedy. The article was brief. Marcus and Vivian were stepping back from business, citing health concerns and family matters. No mention of Alara, no mention of Roman, just a quiet exit. They're gone, Roman said. Really gone. Really gone. David confirmed it. They're selling everything, moving to Europe. Done. Alara should have felt triumphant. She just felt empty. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild, consolidate. Make sure no one else gets ideas about challenging me. Roman set the phone down. And we figure out what this is. Us. I thought we figured that out. Partners. In business. What about the rest? She crossed to him, took his hands. The rest is whatever we make it. No scripts, no arrangements. Just us figuring it out as we go. That's terrifying. Good. I'm tired of easy. He smiled and it reached his eyes this time, genuine and rare. You're going to destroy me. Probably. You going to destroy me back? Definitely. Then we're even. They stood in the morning light. Two people who'd started as transactions and become something messier, realer, infinitely more complicated. Alara's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Alara Drax? A woman's voice. Professional. Unfamiliar. Who's asking? My name is Catherine Price. I represent a client who's very interested in meeting with you, privately, regarding opportunities. What kind of opportunities? The kind that requires someone with your particular skill set. Your recent activities have impressed certain people. People who could use someone like you. Alara's blood went cold. I'm not interested. You might be when you hear what we're offering. Power, resources, the kind of connections that could make you untouchable. Independent. Your own empire. I already have everything I need. Do you? Because from where we're standing, you're still your husband's wife.
His property, however much he dresses it up, is partnership. A pause. We're offering you the chance to be your own queen. Think about it. The call ended. Elara stood there with the phone in her hand, feeling the weight of the offer. The temptation. Roman was watching her. Who was that? She could lie, could keep it to herself, could pretend the call never happened, but they'd promised honesty, however brutal. Someone offering me an empire of my own, she said. Roman's expression didn't change. You gonna take it? I don't know. That's not a no. No, it's not. They looked at each other across 3 feet that suddenly felt like miles. Partners or competitors, allies or enemies. The line between them had never felt thinner. What do you want to do? Roman asked quietly. Elara looked at him, at the penthouse, at the city spread below them like a game board. She thought about everything she'd survived to get here, everything she'd become, everything she could still become if she reached for it. And she smiled, sharp, dangerous, her own. I want to hear what they're offering, she said. Then I want to decide who I'm going to be. Not your wife, not the Vance's daughter, not anyone's anything, just me. Roman nodded slowly. And if that means leaving, then I leave. And if it means war, then we fight. The sun rose higher, painting everything gold. In the distance, sirens wailed. The city woke up to another day of violence and beauty, and people making terrible decisions they'd have to live with. Elara Drax stood at the window beside a man who'd killed for her and lied to her and given her the first real choice she'd ever had. And she prepared to make another one, whatever the cost. The meeting was set for 3 days later. Neutral Ground, a restaurant that Catherine Price owned, upscale, discreet, the kind of place where powerful people made deals that would never appear in contracts. Elara spent those 3 days preparing in ways she'd never imagined. Roman taught her to read people the way he did, watching for tells, listening for what wasn't said, understanding that power was 90% perception and 10% willingness to act. Sienna showed her how to track digital footprints, how to know if someone was lying based on their online patterns. David walked her through corporate structures, shell companies, the legal architecture of empire building. Vale taught her to fight, not the basics he'd shown her before the warehouse. Real fighting, brutal, efficient, the kind that assumed your opponent wanted you dead, and you had seconds to decide if you'd let them succeed. You're going into a room with people who eat weakness, Vale said, watching her practice strikes on a heavy bag. They'll test you, push you, see if you break. I won't break. Everyone breaks. Question is whether you break in ways that matter. He adjusted her stance. Again, harder. She hit the bag until her knuckles bled, until her arms felt like dead weight, until Vale finally nodded. Good, now you're ready. Roman said nothing during her preparation, just watched with an expression she couldn't read. On the surface, he looked calm, but she caught him making calls in Italian at odd hours, saw him reviewing files late into the night, noticed the way his jaw would tighten when he thought she wasn't looking. The night before the meeting, she found him at the window staring at the city like it held answers. You're worried, she said. I'm calculating. Same thing for you. He smiled without humor. Price doesn't make offers unless she thinks she can win. Whatever she's proposing, it's designed to split us apart. You need to know that going in. I know. And you're going anyway. I need to hear it. Need to know what I'm choosing when I choose you. She moved to stand beside him. Unless you want me to cancel, stay here. Be content with being your wife and nothing more. Is that what you think I want? I think you want me safe. And safety means small. Roman turned to face her fully. I want you dangerous. I want you sharp. I want you to walk into that room and come out on top. His hand cupped her face. But I also want you to come back to me. And I'm not sure those things can both be true. Then I guess we'll find out. She kissed him like it might be the last time. Like she was memorizing the shape of his mouth, the taste of him, the particular way he held her like she was breakable and unbreakable at the same time. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. Whatever happens tomorrow, he said quietly, whatever you decide, I need you to know something. What? You were supposed to be a transaction, a piece in a game I'd been playing for 15 years, but somewhere between the wedding and now, you became the only thing that matters. His eyes held hers. I love you, and I've never said that to anyone who wasn't dead or dying. The words landed like stones in still water, rippling through everything. Roman, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But she did say it back, whispered it against his mouth, fierce and certain and terrified of how true it was. They didn't sleep that night, just held each other in the darkness, listening to the city breathe, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything one way or another. Morning came too fast and too slow. Alara dressed in a suit Sienna had helped her choose, black, tailored, expensive in a way that whispered power instead of shouting it. Minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. She looked like someone who belonged in boardrooms and back rooms where deals got made. She looked like someone who could build an empire or burn one down. Roman wore his usual armor, dark suit, cold eyes, the careful control that made people nervous without knowing why. But when he looked at her, something in his expression softened. "You ready?" he asked. "No, but I'm going anyway." They drove separately. Roman in one SUV with Vale, Alara in another with two guards whose names she'd learned, Marcus, ironically, and James. Both former military. Both loyal to Roman in ways that went beyond paychecks. The restaurant was in a district that straddled legitimate business and barely concealed crime. The kind of neighborhood where politicians and criminals ate at the same tables and pretended not to know each other. Catherine Price waited in a private dining room, and she was not what Alara expected. Mid-40s, elegant, wearing power like some women wore perfume. Black woman with silver threading through her natural hair, eyes that assessed and calculated in the space of a breath. She stood when Alara entered, offered her hand. "Mrs. Drax, thank you for coming." "Miss Price." Alara's grip matched the other woman's. Firm, testing. "You've got 30 minutes to convince me this wasn't a waste of time." Price smiled. "Direct? Good. I hate wasting time on pleasantries." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. Let's talk about what you really want." Alara sat. Price poured wine without asking, slid a glass across the table. "I know your story," Price began. "Adopted by a family that treated you like furniture, sold to settle debts, married to a crime lord who planned to use you as leverage. Except you didn't stay used. You became something else. And what's that? Someone worth investing in." Price leaned back. "I run an organization. Not crime exactly, more like facilitation. We connect people who have resources with people who need them. We make problems disappear. We build power structures that exist in the spaces between legal and illegal." Sounds like crime with better branding. Sounds like the world we actually live in. Price sipped her wine. Roman Drax built his empire on violence and fear. Effective, but limited. There's only so far you can go when everyone who works for you is waiting for you to show weakness so they can take your place. And your organization is different? My organization is built on loyalty earned through mutual benefit. No one works for me because they're scared. They work for me because I make them richer, safer, more powerful than they could ever be alone. Price's eyes locked on Alara's. "And I'm offering you a seat at that table, not as my employee, as my partner." Alara's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. "Why me?" "Because you did in 1 week what takes most people years. You went from property to player. You killed men who threatened you. You faced down the family that sold you and destroyed them with words instead of bullets. You chose honesty over safety." Price leaned forward. "You have something rare. The ability to be ruthless and human at the same time. That's valuable. What would this partnership look like? You'd have your own territory, your own operations, resources to build whatever empire you want, legitimate business, underground networks, whatever you're drawn to. You'd answer to no one, not Roman, not me. You'd be autonomous. Except I'd owe you. We'd owe each other. That's how partnerships work." "And Roman? What about him?" "He's my husband. You think he'd just let me walk away and build a competing organization?" Price's smile was knowing. "I think Roman Drax is in love with you. And love makes people do stupid things, like letting their greatest asset become their greatest threat." The words hung there. "You want me to compete with him," Alara said. "I want you to become more than him. Bigger, smarter, more connected." Price pushed a folder across the table. "These are the resources we're offering. Property, contacts, seed funding, everything you need to build from the ground up.
Alara opened the folder. The numbers made her breath catch. Millions in capital, connections to politicians, business leaders, people whose names she recognized from news articles. It was a kingdom wrapped in paper. "And what do you get?" she asked.
An ally. Someone who understands both worlds, legitimate and criminal, and can move between them. Someone who can be the face I can't be. Price's expression was frank. "I'm black and I'm a woman. There are rooms I'll never get into, deals I'll never make because of that. You're young, beautiful, white, married to power. You have access I'll never have. Together, we could build something that outlasts both of us." It was seductive, terrifying. Everything she'd never let herself want because wanting meant admitting she'd been powerless. "I need time to think," Alara said. "You have until the end of this meal. After that, the offer expires." Price cut into her steak. "Choose who you want to be, Alara. Roman's wife or your own queen?" They ate in silence, punctuated by small talk that felt like chess moves. Price was testing her, watching how she handled pressure. Alara matched her move for move, giving nothing away. When the plates were cleared, Price pulled out a contract. Single page, simple terms. Sign and she'd be a partner in Price's organization. Independent, powerful, free. The pen sat beside the paper like a loaded gun. "One signature," Price said. "That's all it takes." Alara picked up the pen, felt the weight of it. Thought about everything that had led to this moment. Vivian's slaps, Marcus's distance, Roman's lies, the warehouse full of bodies, the particular sound her voice made when she told her truth to cameras. She thought about who she'd been and who she was becoming. She set the pen down. "No," she said. Price's expression flickered, surprise, then respect. "Why not?" "Because I don't trust you. Because this offer is too good, too perfect, too designed to split me from the one person who's been honest about what he wants from me." Alara stood. "Roman used me, but he admitted it, gave me choices, came for me when I was taken. Whatever we are, it's real. Messy and complicated and built on terrible foundations, but real." "And you think that's enough?" "I think it's more than you're offering. You want a tool, something pretty and useful you can deploy in rooms you can't access. That's not partnership. That's just better packaging on the same transaction Roman started with." Price stood too. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake." Alara moved toward the door. "Find another player for your game, Ms. Price. I'm building my own." She walked out without looking back. Her hands shook, but her steps were steady. In the parking lot, Roman's SUV waited. He got out when he saw her, his expression unreadable. "That was fast," he said. "She offered me an empire." "Did you take it?" "No." Something in his shoulders loosened. "Why not?" "Because I already have one. I just need to claim it." She looked at him, this dangerous man who'd lied and killed and somehow loved her anyway. "We're partners. You said so. That means I don't build competing organizations. I build with you." "Alara, Ma?" "I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you how this works now." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. "I want territory, operations, my own team. I want to be more than your wife. I want to be your equal." Roman studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it was sharp and proud. "Done. On one condition." "What?" "You prove you can handle it, not because you're my wife, because you're good enough." "How do I prove that?" "The South District, Julia's territory. She's been skimming profits, undermining my authority, waiting for a chance to make a move." Roman's eyes were cold. "Handle her, however you want. You succeed, the territory's yours. You fail. I won't fail. Then you start tomorrow." They drove back to the penthouse in Roman's SUV, Vale at the wheel, silence heavy between them. But it wasn't uncomfortable silence anymore. It was the quiet of two predators acknowledging each other's strength. That night, Alara planned. Sienna pulled up everything on Julia: financials, communications, patterns of movement. The woman was smart, ambitious, and angry. She'd built Roman's South District into a profitable machine and felt like she deserved more credit, more power, more everything.
She's got loyalists, Sienna said. People who'd follow her if she made a move against Roman. You go in hard, you start a civil war. And if I go in soft, she'll think you're weak, eat you alive. Alara stared at the screen showing Julia's operation. What if I do neither? What if I give her what she wants? Which is? Recognition, respect, a chance to be more than middle management in someone else's empire. Roman was listening from the doorway. You want to promote the woman who's actively undermining me? I want to turn an enemy into an ally, or at least into someone who sees me as an opportunity instead of an obstacle. Alara pulled up Julia's financial records. She's good at this, better than most of your lieutenants. She just wants credit for it. So give her credit and she falls in line? Maybe. Or maybe she tries to kill me and I handle it then. Alara looked at him. You said I could do this however I want. This is how I want to do it. Roman considered. Your funeral. Let's hope not. The meeting with Julia happened in the same warehouse where Alara had first seen Roman's operation. Neutral ground, public enough that Julia couldn't try anything obvious. Julia arrived with 2 bodyguards, her expression somewhere between suspicious and aggressive. She was younger than Alara expected, maybe 28, sharp-featured, with ink crawling up her arms and eyes that had seen things. Mrs. Drax, Julia's voice dripped sarcasm. To what do I owe the honor? Call me Alara, and you're here because we need to talk about your future. My future? Julia laughed. Let me guess. Roman sent his wife to fire me because he's too much of a coward to do it himself. Roman didn't send me. I came because I'm taking over the South District, and I want you to run it. That shut Julia up. Her eyes narrowed. What's the catch? No catch. You've built something profitable down there. You know the territory, the people, the operations. I'd be stupid to come in and tear that down. Alara sat on a crate, deliberately casual. But I've seen your financials. You're skimming, not much. Just enough to build a safety net in case Roman decides you're expendable. Julia's hand moved toward her weapon. Alara didn't flinch. I'm not here to punish you for being smart, Alara continued. I'm here to offer you a deal. You stop undermining Roman. You report to me. In exchange, you get a 20% stake in South District profits. Not a salary, a stake. You do well, you get rich. Why would you offer me that? Because you're good at this and I need good people. Because I'd rather have you working with me than plotting against me. Because I think you're ambitious and angry and you channel that into business instead of chaos. Alara leaned forward. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to be seen as decoration instead of danger. I'm betting you know that feeling too. Something flickered in Julia's expression. Recognition, maybe? What makes you think I won't take your offer and still betray you? Nothing. But if you do, I'll kill you myself. No Roman, no veil, just me. Alara's voice was calm as glass. I've already killed people who threatened what's mine. You'd just be another one. Julia stared at her for a long moment. Then she started laughing, genuine, surprised laughter. You've got balls, I'll give you that. She stuck out her hand. Deal, but I want 25%. 22, final offer. 23 and you've got yourself the best lieutenant you'll ever have. They shook on it. Julia's grip was firm, testing, respectful. One question, Julia said. Why'd you turn down Catherine Price's offer? Word is she offered you a kingdom. How do you know about that? I know everything that happens in my district, including which fancy restaurants get reserved for secret meetings. Julia's smile was sharp. So why say no? Alara thought about the easy answer. The one that made her look loyal and devoted and safe. She gave the true one instead. Because Price wanted to use me the same way everyone else has. Pretty face, useful connections, someone to deploy when she needs access. Roman offered me the same thing initially, but then he gave me choices. Let me build my own power. Price never would have done that. So you chose the devil, you know? I chose the devil who admitted what he was and let me become a devil too. Julia nodded slowly. Fair enough. Welcome to the South District, boss. Try not to get us all killed. Over the next 3 months, Alara built her empire piece by piece. The South District flourished under her and Julia's partnership. They cleaned up operations, cut out waste, built relationships with legitimate businesses that could launder money and provide cover.
Profits increased by 40%. Roman's other lieutenants took notice.
Alara didn't stop there. She used her connections, the ones she'd built growing up in the Vance family, the ones she'd made standing beside Roman, to expand into territories he'd never thought to touch. Art galleries that moved more than paintings, charity foundations that distributed more than goodwill. She built an empire that looked clean on the surface and was profitable as hell underneath. She wasn't Roman's wife anymore. She was his partner, his equal.
Their marriage evolved into something stranger and more real. Some nights they were allies comparing notes on operations. Other nights they were lovers who'd survived too much to pretend gentleness. And some nights they were just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of other people's plans and decided to build something new from the ruins. The South District Party happened on a Friday in late autumn. Julia had organized it, celebration of their success, show of force to anyone who thought Alara was soft. The warehouse had been transformed with lights and music and enough alcohol to drown a small army. Alara stood on a catwalk overlooking the celebration, watching her people, because they were hers now, dance and drink and exist without fear for one night. Roman found her there, 2 glasses of whiskey in hand. He offered her one. "You did it," he said.
Did what? Built something that's yours, not mine, not the Vance's. Yours. She sipped the whiskey, let it burn. Couldn't have done it without you. You could have. Would have taken longer maybe, been messier, but you would have found a way. Is that respect I hear in your voice?
It's awe.
He leaned against the railing beside her. A year ago you were invisible. Now you run a district that makes more money than some of my veteran lieutenants. You've got people who die for you. You've become exactly what I knew you could be. Dangerous? Unstoppable. Below, Julia caught Alara's eye and raised her drink in a toast. Alara raised hers back.
"I got a call today," Roman said after a moment. "Catherine Price. She wanted to congratulate you on your success. Said she was impressed. Should I be worried? She also said the offer still stands if you ever change your mind."
Alara looked at him. "You think I will? I think you could. I think you've outgrown being anyone's partner, including mine. I think eventually you're going to want your own empire completely separate from me."
Roman's voice was steady, but something in his eyes looked almost vulnerable. "And when that day comes, I'll let you go, because you deserve that freedom. And if I don't want to go, then I'll spend every day grateful that someone like you chose someone like me." She kissed him there on the catwalk, tasting whiskey and truth, and the particular flavor of choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. When they pulled apart, the party below had grown louder. Someone had started a bonfire in a barrel. It was chaos and beautiful and hers. "Come on," she said, taking his hand. "Let's go celebrate with our people." "Our people?" "Our people." They descended into the party together. Roman soldiers and Alara's crew mingling, the lines between his empire and hers blurring into something shared. Vale cornered them near the makeshift bar. "Got news. The van